agam-agam ng ating mga kababayan, from memes to Viber messages to Facebook messages to jokes from all the way from ito yung vaccine, Novovax, ganito ganyan, tapos mamaya kickback, mga ganun yung sa Pilipinas daw. So gusto natin mawala yung agam-agam na yan. We were part of government, we're part of the process. We in the Senate together with House of Representatives came up with the funds for you to spend. So Philippine government already a difference of 74 billion. Is this fake news or is this the truth? So these are the questions that me and not. So I know there is a non-disclosure agreement, but the non-disclosure agreement cannot be used for government funds because we have the Commission on Audit who is tasked by the Constitution to see if the money was spent wisely and properly. So I would like to first ask Mr. Final price for these vaccines, each and every one of them, from the Western to the Eastern vaccines, Mr. President, the final price.
Your Honor, may I answer? Sir, the price of the vaccines that we are procuring, mostly of them are cost and no profit, and they are barely negotiated. The price that undergo strict regulation, considering that all of our vaccine procurement will undergo with the ADB and World Bank stringent regulatory requirements. And I can assure you that the price of Indonesia and the price of the other will. I can assure you that the prices that we cannot do the exact price, but I can assure you that our negotiation, the price relative to our neighbors are almost the same.
Yes, Mr. President, we need that assurance from the Secretary.
With the permission of the Majority Leader.
Biggs, will you allow Senator Lacson on that particular
As
point?
I had manifested earlier, and as manifested by Senator Angara, 629.50 came from the OH. Why did you not question it? That was not plucked from thin air by the Committee on Finance of the Senate.
Sir,
As manifested earlier by Senator Angara, di ba sabi niya, ang figure na 3,600 plus nanggaling sa DOH mismo. That's why yun ang record na nakuha namin sa office niya.
I believe that price is for
Nawala.
Sabihin nyo na lang na hindi yun ang negotiated price noon, nagbabago yan.
That's why what I've said on the media, that what we are negotiating is a negotiated price.
Ang sinabi mo,
not the market price,
Secretary,
the
ang
public.
sinabi mo sa media, mali po yung butihing senador.
Actually, sir, wala akong sinabing ganun, sir.
And
I did not say that, sir. Sir, ito ang nakita natin. I think the media is twisting it. I'm only in the telephone. I don't know what is written on the mark.
Mr. President, again, no, that's why
President, if I
nagkakaroon
may,
tayo ng-
Senator Mix, just one prices and efficacy rates.
Actually, sir,
But again, these figures also came from DOH during that time, no, during the budget hearing. So perhaps it's a good way of saying na a good communication plan, Secretary, would be figures. Wag na lang po sabihin na mali.
I called even the Secretary of Secretary Angara because he said that may sinabi ka ba? Sir, wala akong sinabi. Ang ginawa ng news ng news habang nagsasalita po sir ako sa sabi ko that is not the negotiated price. Ang nilagay po sa doon, mali yung ng Senado. Hindi ko po alam yung nakalagay doon po kasi telephone lang po ako eh.
Yeah, Mr. President,
merong twist ang ginawa ng media.
Senator Sabiri.
yes, Mr. President, to the Secretary, with all due respect also to our colleagues in the Secretary, actually, if you in the affirmative,
Yes, sir. With the help of the Chinese ambassador po, sir.
yes, yun nga lang, gusto lang
Well,
namin malaman. Siguro, Mr. President, no, hindi ko napapatagalin ko kasi para nagkakaproblema po tayo sa pricing. At yung mga tao, hindi mawawala yung agam-agam kung hindi po natin talaga sasabihin. Yung Indonesia lumabas na. They already said it's 600 plus pesos yung na-negotiate nila sa China. So, if it's 1,000, you can mention it because anyway, it's the same price as Moderna. If it is 800, the cost of vaccines all around the world. But if we do not tell them, Mr. President, kasi mahirap yung, huwag kayong mag-alala, kaming bahala. Hindi po pwede yan. Alam ni Governor Velasco yan, he's super. During the executive session, Mr. President. I mean, just an idea.
Yes, just an idea. But earlier, Mr. Joey Concepcion bluntly gave the price. It was.
Yun yung AstraZeneca po, Mr. President. That's AstraZeneca. We're asking about like
Hindi
Sinovac.
na magkakalayo-layo yan, I'm sure. Di ba? Hindi na magkakalayo-layo yan. Baka mapamahal pa nga yung Johnson & Johnson eh. Dahil sila isang shot lang eh. Hindi dalawang
Kaya
beses
Mr. President, gusto po
Anyway,
namin, if that
thank
is
you,
possible.
Senator
Yes,
Subiri.
Mr.
Is that, yes, your time is up, but if you can.
Yes,
you
I made
wrap
a
up.
motion, Mr. President, with the agreement of my colleagues, executive session with them. Gusto ko kasi sila tanungin harap-harapan without media, without what is it talaga? What is going on? What is the number that is that we're looking at? Para kasi kung hindi mawawala yung agam-agam, Mr. President.
Before we act on the motion of the majority leader, there is a video being played from put the place it on record what is
Almost
correct.
300% ang kanyang price. Yung COVAX price po bababa po ng mahigit. At yung sinasabi natin na 5 times, mali po yun.
All right, you can play it when you're ready. Senator Subiri, the Majority Leader, your motion is to go into an executive session and get from them the
There are
prices.
sensitive questions we'd like to ask. Like, for example, the non-disclosure agreements, what is indicated there, particularly the price, so that we can tell the people that the price is fair, it's not overpriced, et cetera, et cetera. And for the sake of transparency, Mr. President, we need to know that because that's government funds. This is only for the vaccines procured by government. Hindi po ito yung donated, hindi po ito yung mga libre. These are only not. This is not the COVAX facility price. We're looking at the price, what government will pay for the remaining vaccines.
Sir, can I-
Mr. President.
Sir, can I manifest? Sir, we
Yes.
are reprimanded by... Sir, we are reprimanded by the manufacturer, and they said that we are on ongoing negotiation. Anyway, these prices will become a public domain after the negotiation. Considering that the prices have been negotiated, in different countries also. They recommend that the CDA should be honored, considering that it may complicate their negotiation also with other countries. So with your indulgence, if we will say in public the prices, it will compromise the 140 million doses that we are getting, and all the companies will gonna withdraw in our negotiation. The CDA is very important. This is a binding agreement.
But Mr. President, just
The
may I
motion of
just-
the Majority Leader is
Yes.
for an executive session, and that means that it will not be public. It will not be
it will not
given in public.
devolve.
But nevertheless, because of the situation that we're in, wherein we are partly virtual and partly open here, an executive session with us physically present is easy. But with you guys virtually present, it's quite difficult. So perhaps we can consider that later when we're
Yes, sir.
finished with the other senators,
Yes, sir.
if you
Yes.
don't mind.
Yeah, and Mr. President,
Majority
just
Leader.
yes, Mr. President. No, I will of course defer to the action of the plenary and our colleagues. Yung akin lang, Mr. President, no, not to derail the vaccine procurement program. Mine lang kasi open book naman yung Moderna kung magkano, open book naman yung J&J, open book naman yung Novavax, open book din po yung AstraZeneca. We already know all the prices. It seems to be only Sinovac that we have no clue on the price. So yun lang po, Mr. President. I mean, you're talking to 7 other vaccine manufacturers. The 6 others have already given their price. Yung isa lang ang hindi pa nagbibigay ng price. So again, Mr. President, as far as transparency is concerned, we would like to get a ballpark figure later on, if need be, when the negotiations have ended. But sana before they purchase, because they negotiate a price and it's still extremely expensive, then of course, being the policymakers of the legislative department would like to be informed about this, Mr. President. I'm not trying to put a monkey wrench in the procurement of vaccines. I want it done immediately. Alam po ni Secretary Galvez yan. I have my full trust and confidence in him. Ang gusto lang po natin, sagutin yung mga agam-agam ng tao na tawag ng tawag sa amin kung ano ba talaga ang presyo nitong mga bakunang ito. Yun lamang po, Mr. President.
Okay.
Dahil pera ng taong bayan yan,
Alright, thank
Mr.
you.
President. Ha? Pera ng taong
Thank
bayan yan. We cannot play around with the government funds. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. The Majority Leader, Senator Subiri, we will tackle that particular motion later. In the meantime, we now recognize the Minority Leader, Senator Frank Rilon. 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And let me start by going back to that statement and they earlier made that almost half or 47% of our people says they would not want to be vaccinated for whatever reason. So you can imagine the situation confronting us. One of every two Filipinos says they don't want to be vaccinated, and the principal reason is reasons of safety. Ito ba ay safe and therefore to me, Secretary Galvez, the only way to overcome this reluctance is to provide more information to our people. And that is where I think all the senators are coming from. We need information so that we can tell our people that indeed this is the right thing to do, but we cannot project that unless we give them the information. And again, I would repeat, 1 out of every 2 Filipinos would not want to be vaccinated. Can you imagine if that situation persists? What will we do? We have half of our population carriers. So what kind of vaccination program will succeed? That's one. Secondly, from a strictly constitutional and legal viewpoint, the right of information is a matter that is a concern that is recognized under our Constitution. The right of the people to information on matters of public concern shall be recognized. And therefore, I hope you do not attribute politics to the questions being raised here, because precisely this is what we need. Information as a matter of right of our people and as a matter of building confidences, because you cannot impose confidence. You must earn it, Mr. Secretary. And therefore, it must be in that context that these questions are being raised by the chamber. Even the Supreme Court, as my good friend Governor Velasco will confirm, has ruled that the constitutional right to information includes official information on ongoing negotiations before a final contract. That was expressly ruled in the case of Chavez versus Public States Authority. The Supreme Court ruled that the constitutional right to information includes official information on ongoing negotiations before a final contract. But Mr. President, I'll be the first one to take the position, okay, let us not insist on knowing what the price is before the final contract is signed. Because, we can understand the reluctance of Secretary Galvez, because it may prejudice and the negotiations, and therefore public order is affected. But having said all of that, Mr. President, it was mentioned that we will be getting Sinovac vaccines in the amount of 25 million doses by mid-February. Is that correct, sir? Can we reconfirm that?
To the Honorable Minority Leader, Secretary Galvez just went to the restroom, but maybe I can just confirm that the initial delivery based on the current negotiations with Secretary Galvez is a possible delivery of only 50,000 doses in February. But it is still not final. The negotiations are still ongoing, Mr. President.
But is there a commitment to purchase 25 million doses?
As mentioned by Secretary Galvez in the previous hearing, Mr. President, the negotiations are ongoing. The 25 million doses is currently under negotiation, Mr. President.
Mr. President, with all due respect, can we have a few minutes of suspension to enable Secretary Galvez to answer this very critical question? He's not in the hall now. He's just in the.
He's here. He's here.
Is he here now?
Yes, go ahead. And then the video that Senator Lacson was mentioning is here. But you go ahead, answer first.
So is there a commitment is there a commitment that we will purchase 25 million doses from Sinovac?
Sir, we are still on ongoing negotiation. That's the indicative
I'm sorry?
volumes, and that's the indicative volume and also the indicative dates that been given. So the negotiation is still ongoing, sir.
So,
His response
so-
is they are still under negotiation.
Yes, sir. Well, I just signed the term sheet, and we don't have we don't have the supply agreement. Sir, ang pinaka-definitive sa negotiation po kasi, sir, as we have said earlier, we have the CDA, the term sheet, and the supply agreement. The supply agreement is the most important thing because this is the indicative, the date of delivery, the exact volume and price will be, and the conditions on how we will deliver it. Ito po nakalagay po doon.
so you have signed a term sheet with Sinovac?
Yes, sir. That's ano, yung po ang ano po, Your Honor. Pagka po gusto natin magkaroon ng tinatawag na further negotiations so that we can lock already the 25 million or the doses that have been promised, the term sheet is some sort of general framework to follow on for the specific supply agreement.
All right. Under the term sheet, are we supposed to purchase 25 million doses from Sinovac?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right. And the specific schedule of deliveries will be in the sale contract when we sign it.
No, sir. It is in the supply agreement po, sir.
It's in supply agreement.
Yes, sir. The supply agreement will be signed after further negotiation on the exact date of the delivery and the transactions on the payments.
All right. Can I have a definite answer, Mr. President? Are we committed to buy from Sinovac or not?
We are still negotiating, sir.
Assume,
You're
okay,
still negotiating. The answer is you're still negotiating. But what is the why was there an assurance to us last hearing that by February 20 they will deliver?
Yes, sir. That's the indicative plan that they will deliver. However, considering that there is a requirement for the EUA, that plan might be. So yung inano po namin sa kanila is really to follow up yung kanilang clinical trial result from Brazil, Turkey, and Indonesia. So that's the requirement that we are asking them to produce so that the vaccine expert of panel and also our FDA can analyze those data before we can have some sort of indicative, definitive negotiation.
With the indulgence of the minority leader, the point, General Galvez, Secretary Galvez, is that we should be very careful with our pronouncements. Look at this particular 10-second there that some of my colleagues were pointing out. Go ahead.
Yes.
No, we're playing this for a while, Minority
Yes.
Leader, if you don't mind. 10 seconds, Tanto. Go ahead.
Yes, yes. I'm willing to wait, Mr. President.
Until na-issue nila yung
Yung COVAX price po, bababa po ng mahigit na almost 300% ay bababa ang kanyang price. Mali po yung yung information ng ating mahal na senator dahil kasi po yung Sinovac niya po ang Gamaleya.
That was the point.
Kapresyo niya po yung ibang vaccines. At yung sinasabi natin na 5 times, mali po yun.
You were referring to Senator Angara. You said
Sir,
mali yung ating mahal na senador.
hindi po sir, mali po ang information.
Mali ang information.
Yung po,
The information came from DOH.
Yes, sir, but I'm referring to the information that the Sinovac is 3,600. They are referring to it. So I'm referring not to Senator Angara. I don't know even yung ano po. Kasi ang inano po sa yung sa tinanong ng station is yung 3,600. Kaya sabi ko
Mr.
po
Chair.
doon, mali
Mr.
po
Chair.
yung information ng ano po.
Mr. Chair, can we repeat
Mali
the,
po yung
the
information
video,
ng
Mr.
ating
Chair?
mahal na
Because
senator
if
dahil
I
kasi
heard
po
it
yung
right, the word senator was mentioned.
Sinovac, kapresyo niya po ang Novavax, kapresyo niya po ang Gamaleya, kapresyo niya po yung ibang vaccines. At yung sinasabi natin na 5 times, mali po yun. Mali po yung information ng ating mahal na senator dahil kasi po yung Sinovac, kapresyo niya po ang Novavax, kapresyo niya po ang Gamaleya, kapresyo niya po yung ibang vaccines. At yung sinasabi natin na 5 times, mali po yun.
That's the point. As I said, we should be careful with our pronouncements because it misleads. For example, the 3,600 came from the DOH. So that's the information that the senator had. All right? Senator Dillon, the Minority Leader, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. President. With your indulgence, Mr. Secretary, can I go back to the Sinovac issue? Is it not a policy of our FDA that they will consider issuing an emergency use authorization where a drug has already been passed upon and approved by other jurisdictions which are considered as matured regulatory agencies like US, the EU, Australia, Singapore, Japan, Switzerland, and Sweden. In other words, we rely on the judgment of these countries on the issuance of the emergency use authorization. Is that a correct statement of policy, Mr. Secretary, if you know?
Can I answer,
Yes,
Mr.
please.
Senator?
Opo.
Yes, sir. The minimum requirement for an EUA application is an EUA from either the home country or any other jurisdiction po na FDA. However, if the EUA comes from a stringent regulatory authority, then it is reliable and we can recognize it. If it does not come from a stringent regulatory agency, it comes from the home country, for example, but the home country does not have a stringent regulatory agency, then we really do very close inspection of everything. Hindi po kami makaka-rely dun sa decision ng home country.
All right. Can we go more specific? Does Sinovac have an emergency use authorization from any of those with matured regulatory agencies like the US, etc.? Or does it even have an EUA from China?
It has an EUA from China and Argentina, and I think now probably po from Indonesia because they're using it there, but none of them are stringent regulatory authorities.
Okay, so having said that, the issue I assume is that we have to verify and ascertain whether or not safety of this vaccine is a matter that we have addressed sufficiently. In other words, a safety issue, or the efficacy and the safety issue has not been fully addressed insofar as our local jurisdiction is concerned.
Yes, Mr. Senator. In fact, we haven't even started evaluating their application yet because they have not submitted their interim results for the phase 3 clinical trial.
So, but we are already expecting delivery of at least 50,000 doses by mid-February.
Sir, can I answer po yung Sinovac? Sir,
No,
based on our...
Can you answer that question first, Mr. Secretary, with all due respect? There has been no emergency use authorization from the what we call the matured regulatory agencies. There has been no EUA from these agencies, none from us. Why are we already having a commitment to bring in 50,000 doses in February?
Sir, can Yusek Mark Akaben answer that question, sir?
Yes, please.
Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, so basically, because of the term sheet, Sinovac has a commitment to deliver and to sell and to deliver to us 50,000 doses before the end of February at a price certain. But we don't have an obligation to buy from them until they meet certain conditions, among which is the execution of a term sheet, number one, and number two, getting the proper regulatory approvals. Thank you.
The term sheet has been signed. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
So,
Subject to
you know, all of this reluctance and, the feeling we get is that full information is not being made, full disclosure is not being made. And this, I tell you, we're trying to help you, but exchanges like this does not help in building up confidences, because here we are saying that there is no emergency use authorization even from China, or from this, I'm sorry, I take that back, even from this, what we usually rely upon, what the FDAs of other jurisdictions, and yet we are already committed to bring in 50,000 doses now. So anong mangyayari? Pagdating dito, wala na. It's academic. We just have to approve that. Ganun mo ba yun?
yeah, Mr. Chair, can I answer?
Yes.
Yeah, Yusek, just to follow up the minority leader, you're saying that you are still negotiating, but they are ready to deliver to 20,000,
50.
50,000 doses.
Mr. Chair,
Have you made the down payment already?
no.
Paano sila magdi-deliver on February 20? Wala pa kayong down payment,
Yeah.
nag-negotiate pa kayo. How's that happening?
So, Mr. Chair, yung term sheet which was signed by the Sinovac and the government of the Philippines through the DOH indicates a commitment on the part of Sinovac to deliver several tranches depending on the month and at a price certain. Now, on the
But if Pfizer will be delivering by the end of the month of February.
yeah, they commit deliver by the end of February. But
ilang doses?
50,000 doses by the end
Also.
of February. Yes, sir. Pfizer, sir.
Yes.
Pfizer is different, sir. So it's a different format. Pfizer, my understanding is Pfizer is to be delivered on the basis of parang trials, clinical trials.
So how
It's
many?
not-
How many?
Sir,
Pfizer will be delivering by Q3 and Q4.
yeah.
Oh, third quarter pa. At saka fourth quarter pa. Anyway, go ahead, Senator Dilon, just for
Mr. President, again with the indulgence of
permission of
Senator
the
Dilon.
minority leader, go ahead, Senator Lacson.
Now, how do we reconcile that with the pronouncement of Secretary Roque na February to June, puro Sinovac yung i-inoculate? How do we reconcile that? And that's quite definite. Sinabi niya pa, don't be choosy. Ang
Yeah.
available lang, Sinovac from February to June. So that's 5 months na headway.
So
How do we reconcile that?
yeah, Mr. Chair, if I can answer. So basically, what we can give you is what's provided for in the agreement. So I'm not really sure what Secretary Roque thought
Well,
about.
he is the presidential spokesperson.
Yes, sir.
But he should know what he's talking about.
Yes, sir. But what we can represent is what is provided for and what was agreed upon. So basically, the commitment of Sinovac is to deliver at a certain price given a certain volume within several months and given several tranches. Now, our commitment is to buy from them if they meet certain objectives or certain conditions. Number one of which is execution of a supply agreement, and number two of which is the completion of the regulatory approval process in the Philippines. Thank you.
Can I comment on the pronouncement? Sir, actually, sir, the pronouncement of Secretary Roque, with the indulgence of the Senate, because we are still negotiating with the COVAX, we still withheld the information. But when we have a cabinet meeting during Monday, we informed him that we just met with the COVAX and the possibility that the COVAX might also have a mini rollout during the first quarter. That's the thing that we reconcile our information. So for the information of everybody that the COVAX might have a mini rollout during the first quarter, and indicatively it might be Pfizer.
Is Sinovac part of COVAX?
No.
Believe they are applying also, sir.
They're applying, but they're not part of COVAX yet.
Yes, sir. They are applying.
Lalong gumulo.
Right, minority leader, go ahead. It's back to you, sir.
Now, Mr. Secretary, if somebody is from the WHO is there, is it confirmed that the preferred efficacy set by the WHO is at least 70% for the vaccine? For a vaccine?
Sir,
Is-
can we have the FDA or
Pre-
Jaime Montoya, the expert that can answer this one?
Yes, preferred efficacy is 70% per WHO.
May I, Chair?
Sir,
Go ahead, Dr.
Your Honor, if I may respond to that question.
Please.
Okay. We have the WHO representative.
WHO is already there.
the-
Yes, we have a WHO representative here. Can we just respond? Is it correct that the preferred, and I underscore the word preferred, efficacy is at least 70%? That's published.
Let me clarify, sir. That was
Go ahead. WHO, go ahead.
position that WHO advanced when we were talking of a target product profile. When the research institutions were beginning vaccine research, what we said is that a product will need to have 70% efficacy, or in the minimum at least 50% efficacy to be recognized as useful in the pandemic response. That was a target product profile, not that was meant for research institutions as a guideline. Subsequently, we've now seen that some of the products are actually doing better than was expected.
I'm sorry, subsequently? What's that? I didn't catch the last statement, sir.
Some of the products are now showing higher efficiency, effectiveness rates or protection rates.
Therefore,
We haven't subsequently revised our target product profile since many of these products are actually meeting the minimum 50% that we requested. We are also conscious of the fact that the global response will need multiple products to actually quickly reduce the impact of the pandemic.
So the minimum, let me try to understand it. The minimum product efficacy is 50%.
That's what was recommended way back in, I believe it was February 2020.
Okay. Is there any new recommendation?
Not to my knowledge, sir. That has not been revisited because that was what you call a target product profile for a product becoming available in the future.
All right. Now, so we have a situation where the announced or the rated efficacy of Sinovac is 50%, or 50.37% to be more precise. Is that correct? Mr. Gal- Yes, sir.
What we are seeing now are the outcomes of individual small-scale phase 3 trials. Many of these vaccines continue to undergo phase 3 trials, and that is why they are being listed under emergency use listing in several countries. Eventual efficacy and determination whether they can achieve market authorization will be dependent on the coverage rates they reach in a wider, larger population.
Okay. Okay. Well, having said all of that, can I go back to Secretary Galvez? We are aware, of course, first, we are aware that the efficacy rate, at least published, of Sinovac is 50.37%, although that is being disputed in the computation shown by Senator Lacson to be less than 50%. Now, assume that before or sometime in the next few weeks, the efficacy rate of Sinovac is less than 50%. Are we committed to to proceed with this purchase?
Definitely, our procurement is based on science and the FDA approval. If it will not be approved by the FDA, so we will not. It will not be administered.
All right. If okay, would you wait for the favorable endorsement of the HTAC before actually receiving or allowing the importation of this drug as required
Yes,
by
sir.
present law?
Yes, sir. We are willing. In fact, sir, we are communicating with the BEP. Mostly the members of the BEP is also a member of the EXTA.
Well, by the way, Sinovac is not a Chinese government-owned corporation. Is that correct? It's privately owned.
That's correct, sir.
You are talking directly to Sinovac executives, not to any agent.
I'm talking with Ms. Helen Yang in Hong Kong, the official CEO for Asia Pacific. This is an officer of Sinovac itself. Yes, sir. He is the president, and also with the different members of the group that they have in Hong Kong. So we have a direct link with the company.
Going back to the efficacy rate of Sinovac, why are we having an agreement with Sinovac when the other vaccines have a much higher efficacy rate?
As
And
I have said earlier,
probably at a lower price, like AstraZeneca, as being shown on the board. Sinovac today has an efficacy rate of 50.38. Pfizer has 95. AstraZeneca has 70. The Russian Sputnik 5 has 91. Sinopharm has 79. Moderna has 95. So why are we committed? Why are we making a commitment to Sinovac with such a very low efficacy rate? You know, Mr. Secretary, this gives a lot of our people discomfort. As we cited at the start, the confidence of our people at the at vaccines in general is a low 47%. Pinasok mo pa yung Sinovac ng efficacy rate ay 50.38%. Lalo na pong hindi maniniwala ang taong bayan sa vaccination. And this is the problem of confidence that we are talking about. Can you explain to the public why we are going to bed with Sinovac when in fact its efficacy rate is the lowest among the 7 or so that you are considering?
sir, the reported efficacy rate of Sinovac is unofficial, considering that they have 3 clinical trials in Indonesia, in Turkey, wherein they have 91.1%, 91%, and also in Brazil. That's why they will consolidate these clinical trials to have the official pronouncement. So we are waiting for this consolidation. That's why during our negotiation, they ask for certain delays so that they can consolidate all the data that we will be having. Sir, for the information of everybody, we have said that we are having the portfolio, and the basis of our negotiation is basically on the recommendation of the vaccine expert panel.
Mr. Senator Drilon,
Yes,
please
sir.
take a look at the other slide. It's at actually 50.38%. This the source of this slide is CNN Brazil, and the efficacy rate of Sinovac is 49.58%. The 50+ % is actually the risk ratio, and we still have to deduct the risk ratio from 1. So 1 minus 50 point something would be 49.58, and this was confirmed by the resource person and even Undersecretary Domingo a while ago, that this is really the computation. No? The efficacy rate is a function of the risk ratio computed between those vaccinated and placebo. Placebo, ito yung rate of
Yes, Mr. Senator, po yung
educate us.
Opo, so babakuna po tayo ng equal number na may placebo at saka ng meron pong bakuna. Pagkatapos bibilangin po kung ilan yung nagkaroon ng COVID sa mga yon, and then they compare. That's how they get the risk ratio.
Anyway, the time is up, but we will allow the minority leader to go ahead and wrap up.
Yes,
Just
yes.
another point for clarification. Ano yung risk in unvaccinated arm, saka yung risk in vaccinated arm? Sa risk ratio? We're talking of the risk
Kahit
ratio.
po kasi na-vaccinate, meron pa pong ring risk na magkaroon ng sakit. No? So, kinukuha po ngayon yung absolute risk. Kung ikaw ay nabakunahan, ano yung risk mo na magkasakit? Kung hindi ka nabakunahan, kung placebo binigay sa'yo, ano yung risk mo na magkasakit? Tapos yung risk ratio po, yung ratio ng dalawang risk na yun.
Yes. Pero tama po itong formula.
Opo.
as shown on the board. Ito talaga yung formula because ang source dito is the CDC, no? Yung paano mag-compute. So there you go. It is actually more than 50%. It's less than 50% if we follow the clinical trials done in Brazil. Is Brazil a country with stringent regulatory?
No.
No,
It's
not
not
yet,
one of
Mr.
those.
Senator, hindi po.
Thank you,
No.
Senator Dillon.
Minority
Yes, it is
Leader.
not one. It is not one of them, Mr. Senator. Just for the information, this is not one of the jurisdictions which are considered to have matured regulatory agencies. There are about 6 of them. Brazil is not one of them. In any case, just my message to the secretary is this: you know, our economy depends on the acceptability of the vaccine that will be administered on our people. We start with the premise that 1 out of every 2 Filipinos, 47%, is already adamant or does not or would not want to be vaccinated. And then you come up with a proposal that, and I can see it's being defended, that we get our supply of the vaccine from Sinovac. Let me be very candid with you. This does not add confidence to our people. Why, when in fact there are other vaccines which with a much higher efficacy at lower, if not competitive, with the cost of Sinovac. Why are we insisting that we buy Sinovac vaccines? You know, your explanation does not sit, does not, on your explanation on non-commitment on Sinovac, is that very credible? The overall impression that I have, and excuse me for saying this, is that we have a commitment to buy Sinovac. And as previously emphasized, the reason why HTAC is there is to make sure that no political consideration would get into the choice. And let me leave you with this message. We are talking about the health of our people. We are talking about the recovery of our economy. And my strongest suggestion to you is you should exert every effort to earn the confidence of our people insofar as the vaccine is concerned. And given all that we have heard in the last 2 sessions of the Committee of the Whole, the insistence or preference for Sinovac cannot be denied and will not augur well for building up the confidence of the people in our ability to address this pandemic. With that, thank you very much, Mr. President, for giving me this opportunity to raise our questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, the Minority Leader, Senator Dillon. Just a deduction on my part. Perhaps one of the reasons that you are seeking or negotiating with Sinovac is that ito yung pinakamaaga na makakapag-deliver. Wala bang mas maaga pa or kasing aga niya makakapag-deliver na iba?
Sir, yung pinakamaaga nga po, sir, yung sa COVAX, yung naasahan po natin, sir. But I just want to explain that Sinovac, Sinopharm, and CanSino has been widely used in China. Now the economy of China is booming because they are living like normal, as said to us by Ambassador Santa Romana. Same thing with countries with early deployment, because the Chinese strategy is that they deploy their vaccines since August. And the strategy, our strategy is we will wait for the brand that we are up to have. We might have the experience of Europe and also America.
Well,
And considering that the Sinovac is a possible candidate, and considering that it will follow the scientific computations of the expert, And even Indonesia already ordered 126, and Widodo himself has taken the first job. I believe we have to look first on the clinical data.
So somehow my deduction is correct. No? Ito pinakamaaga eh.
Yes, sir.
But again, just as a reminder to you, the officials, haste makes waste. Be careful with that. With that, the next is Senator Joel Villanueva. You recognize you have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First of all, Mr. President, I'd like to point out that since 10 o'clock in the morning, we have been listening to the discussions about 5 o'clock now, 7 hours na, Mr. Chair. And yung isa sa ating gustong i-point out na malaking hamon sa atin, I think, Mr. President, is yung communications problem ng ating mga kasamahan sa pamahalaan. Last hearing, 25 million doses of Sinovac ang sinabi na lock-in at secured. So ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng lock-in at secured? Ngayon, 50,000 na lang at ngayon, naiklaro kanina na hindi pa naman obligado tayong bilhin yon at kunin yon unless pumasa sa mga standards, which is a very good communication input na narinig natin sa ating mga kasamahan dito sa pamahalaan. Alam nyo, nandito kami para tulungan kayo. Sana naiintindihan nyo po yun. That's why we are here. If you are talking about funding, we are here to help you. Kanina, binanggit Senator Lacson yung breakdown, 44 million ang COVAX, 14 million from LGU, 17 million from private. So that's 75 million doses. And about 32.5 million Filipinos na lang yung kailangan at sa pondo sa ating computation, if 1,200 per Filipinos, that's about 39 billion. So enough yung ating nilagay na pondo para sa 2021 funding. So ito gusto lang namin sabihin sa inyo na we're here to help. We are hearing kanina, there are some legislations that we need to push through when you talk about requirements sa human resources natin sa vaccination. Kaya nga po, this representation filed Senate Resolution number 598. Yun ho yung pinaka gist ng ating resolution. No? And again, ang pinaka-importante is we will be able to convey to our people the real status of the national vaccination program. Kaya po tayo naririto. Ngunit, bagamat napag-usapan ho kanina, hindi tayo locked in o ibig sabihin hindi tayo obligadong kunin yung Sinovac, syempre yung communications, ang dami-daming naririnig. In fact, last hearing po, Secretary Galvez, tinatanong ho namin kayo paulit-ulit anong brand yung darating sa February. Sabi nyo, hindi nyo pwedeng sabihin. And we respected you for that. And then during that time pala, meron dong isa sa Malacanang nagsasalita na kung anong brand kailan darating. So again, it boils down to communications problem. And with 47% of our people not wanting or refuse to be vaccinated, may problema ho tayo. There's 21% pa rin na undecided. So going back lang ho, no, puntahan ho natin yung binabanggit kanina at mainit na usapan about Sinovac. Una, hindi ho tayo obligadong kunin ito. Nag-commit lang sila na may supply sila, pero kung hindi sila papasa sa ating standards, hindi po natin sila kukunin. Wala ho tayong obligasyon na bayaran sila at higit sa lahat, wala tayong intensyon na gamitin ito sa ating mga kababayan. Is that correct?
Correct, very correct po, sir.
Yes, I think that's the bottom line here, no? But now, let's talk about Sinovac. Doon po sa results na pinakita kanina ng Senator Ping Lacson, bumabaho siya ng 49% yung efficacy rate. May mga nakausap po tayong doktor, binanggit natin last hearing, may mga nakausap po tayong mga health professionals saying kung Sinovac yung ibabakuna sa akin, hindi ako magpapabakuna niyan. Ang binabanggit po nila, correct me if I'm wrong, dun sa mga clinical trials, bumaba po dun sa 49% nung ginamit na po dun sa mga frontliners. Meaning to say, yung Sinovac daw po ay para lamang daw, and I would say the word daw, doon sa mga talagang heavy or malala na yung problema sa COVID. Pero yung mga asymptomatic o very mild, hindi po natatamaan nito, kaya ho mababa. Yeah, would you confirm that data from FDA or from anyone?
Mr. Senator, although wala pa po kasi talagang wala pa po yung final reports. Ang report is parang mas effective daw siya, mas may efficacy siya in preventing severe disease. Yung mild to moderate, yun parang po yung sinasabi na 50%. But until we really see the final report, hindi po talaga namin ma-confirm.
But on that particular data, yun po yung isinasaad nun, as you made mention.
Yun po yung nabasa kong isang ano.
Now, I mentioned that, sir, because out of the 492,700 cases, Secretary Duque, ilan po dito yung asymptomatic o mild lang?
Ang mild asymptomatic of the active cases. First, ang atin pong recovery is about 93%. Ano po? Mga 5%, a little under 5% po ang active cases. Of the active cases, mga 23,000. Ang mild to moderate would be about between 85 to 92%. Yan po yung mild symptomatic and asymptomatic.
Maganda po yun, Secretary, binanggit nyo sa mga 90 to 92%. So, ibig sabihin, kung yung Sinovac na naririnig nga po natin, talagang magwo-worry yung ating mga healthcare workers. So, meron hong pinanggagalingan mayroong pinanggagalingan yung worrisome nila about this particular vaccine. So, ang next question ko na lang po is that dun sa mga gumagamit na bansa, Brazil, Indonesia, nagkaroon ho sila ng clinical trial. Is that correct? Nilang lugar.
Yes, Mr. Senator, meron po silang clinical trial doon.
How important is clinical trial in the particular country where it will be used? Kailangan ho bang gawin sa atin ang clinical trial para paggamitin? Kasi kanina parang lumalabas, hindi naman po kailangan. But do you prefer na gawin yung clinical trial?
Well, usually po kasi mas magandang tingnan kung yung data na actual in the country. In fact, ang Sinovac po, meron din po siyang clinical trial na gagawin dito sa atin. Pero hindi pa po nag-uumpisa, no? Pero yun nga po, tumatanggap din naman kami ng applications ng may data na hindi dito ginawa sa atin. Hinihingan lang namin, pinahihiwalay lang po namin yung Asian data. Pero syempre po, meron pong advantages kung dito ginawa yung clinical trial.
Again, I'm saying that because it will address the problem of agam-agam and loss of confidence dun sa particular vaccine. Again, we are here to help you. We are here to help our people know the important information, right information, hindi fake news. Kaya po, again, importante na muli banggitin natin, hindi tayo obligadong bumili at gamitin itong Sinovac unless they pass the standards of FDA at i-recommend rin ito ng HTAC. Tama po yan, no?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'll go to the meat of my resolution, no, itong 598. Last hearing, we requested for the breakdown of essential workers. First of all, Secretary Galvez, thank you for including essential workers. We have been calling for this since November at malaking good news po ito sa mga essential workers natin. But can we point out right now, Mr. Secretary, kung ano na ho yung update doon sa ating list of figures ng 35 million Filipinos that would be prioritized? Ilan po dito yung galing sa tinatawag na essential workers?
Sir, may I read So sir, by priority 1 or hanggang essential workers lang po?
Yes, we want the essential workers, sir.
The essential workers includes teachers, social workers, more or less 1,179,97 or 0.95% of the population. Other government workers, 1,728,641 or 1.66%. Other essential workers, including health, education, social welfare, like agriculture, food industry, transportation, tourism, manufacturing, construction, and others. And then this is 1,690,000 206, meaning 1,690,206. And then next is socio-demographic groups at significant higher risk other than the essential workers like the PDLs, the PWD, Filipino living in high-density areas, meaning the people with disabilities and also those who are people with in the prison.
Sir, what's your total number ng essential workers?
The total number of essential workers, including overseas Filipino OFWs, other remaining workers and seafarers, total is 10,557,951 or 10.15% of the population.
So that's 10.5 million. Sir, kasi we're looking at the data given to us from the labor force survey. Ang essential workers would fall to about 18 million. Kasama ho dito. Kasama ho ba dyan yung mga PUV drivers?
I believe kasama po sila sa other front line workers na nasa first priority po.
Yes, kaya sir, I'm asking yung essential workers. So I think, so you mean to say the 18 million workers that considered yung elementary occupations and those in service or sales, pasok po dun sa essential workers. Is that
Yes, sir,
correct?
yes, sir. Including the economic sector po, sir.
I'm sorry?
Including the private sector, economic sector.
Yes, including the private sector. For example, ang PUV drivers, do we have a data? How many PUV drivers we have? How many retail workers? How many waste collectors? I'm sure kasama po yan, essential workers yan.
Yes, sir. Actually, sir, ang ginawa po sir namin so that we will have good data. The LGUs are the one making the master list. And the master list will be submitted to us on January 30.
Sige po, bantayan ko na lang po yan, sir, kasi that's the main gist of our Senate Resolution 598. I only have 3 minutes and I was looking at the clock. Tingnan lang po natin itong kanina, ni-raise ko po kanina to and binanggit din ni Dr. Eileen, if I'm not mistaken, na meron talagang pagkukulang tayo sa mga mag-a-administer, no? At mag-i-implement itong ating national vaccination program. In fact, you were asking for legislation, legislative help, perhaps funding, perhaps emergency hiring. Ilan ho ba talaga ang kailangan natin? Kasi binanggit po kanina 200,000 for 24 million. But remember, our target is 148 million doses in this year 2021.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, yung pong babakunahan naman po ay hindi isang bagsakan o isang bultuhan. So, schedule po natin, staggered po ito. Halimbawa, kung ibang bakuna gagamitin natin outside of Pfizer, ang target natin 24.6 million. Ang total ng vaccination sites natin mga 4,504 at yung pong base sa kanina pong sinabi ko, mga 27,000 healthcare workers plus mga ancillary workers na mga 177,000. So more or less mga 200,000 po.
So we have enough? Is that what you're saying,
Meron po.
Secretary?
Meron po tayo.
I hope that you're correct with that now. We have enough. No, kasi kanina, I was a little worried about it because if you look at 148 million doses for the next 351 days, you're talking about 421,652 doses per day. So if that is the target, no, to do it in 2021. So I was a little concerned about it kasi kahit kalahati po yun, you're talking about 210,000 doses a day.
Ito naman po ay gaya ng sinabi ko, staggered. So we'll be able to program this in such a way.
No, I mean, if that's the case, it's not realistic to say that we'll be able to reach the 148 million doses for this year.
For this year, that is 70 million. Kakayanin ho, kasi 18 days. Doon sa Pfizer, first dose nga, 10 days lang. Non-Pfizer, first and second dose, 45 days. So it can be done within the 1 year time frame.
Okay, we'll make you guys accountable sa dito. Siguro we will just request the DOH to lay down the human resources component of the national vaccination strategy.
We'll do that, sir.
Sabi na lang ako. I have 1 minute left. I'm trying to find out kung ano yung pinaka-importante. One last point, sige ho. Yung binabanggit po nung University of Oxford that it was suggested that we can think of the lockdown as a form of social immunization, of contact tracing as a form of technological immunization, and a vaccination as pharmacological immunization. So I wanted to talk about this new strain, no, vis-a-vis contact tracing. The country has detected its first case of new COVID-19 variant. Ano ho yung update nito? And gusto kong tignan lang natin itong as of January kasi of 2021. Yung tinitignan ko po itong National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council slide. It shows here, Secretary, that only 4 out of 17 regions in the country have completed provision of training to its contact tracing members. I hope we can show the slide that came from NDRRMC. Again, 4 out of 17 regions in the country. Sila lang po yung naka-complete nitong training ng ating contact tracing. Alam naman natin, kanina binabanggit ho natin, napaka-importante ng contact tracing as we are still awaiting for the vaccines. Notably, there are regions whose number of contact tracing members provided with the training is less than half of the members hired. I wanted to find out why is this so and how do we address this issue? Kasi sayang naman ho lahat ng efforts natin. I'm sure you all agree with me that this is very important.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. On the part of the DALG, first of all, nagkaroon po ng lag dun sa recruitment. In other words, while we focus our attention on the hiring, hiring about 50,000 contact tracers 3 months prior to the expiration of Bayanihan 2, hindi namin nagawa yan. In fact, we were able to hire around 47 to 48,000, which is around 96% already nearing the end of Bayanihan 2. So, kaya po for purposes of training, hindi talaga siya magtutugma dahil nag-hire parang at the time that we were doing the training. So, for purposes of ratio of training to the hiring, nasa 50 to 60% po yan.
So definitely mag-i-improve po ito.
Opo.
Perhaps if we can ask for a report na lang of the most recent and at the same time your target para makuha po itong completion ng training.
Yes, Mr. So, kaya po for purposes of training, hindi talaga siya magtutugma dahil nag-hire parang at the time that we were doing the training. So, for purposes of ratio of training to the hiring, nasa 50 to 60% po yan.
So definitely mag-i-improve po ito.
Opo.
Perhaps if we can ask for a report na lang of the most recent and at the same time your target para makuha po itong completion ng training.
Yes, Mr. Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yun lang po siguro muna. And again, hihilingin ko po sa ating mga kasamahan sa pamahalaan yung pong pag-iingat, lalong-lalo na sa pagbibigay ng information. Siguro sabihan nyo rin po yung ilang nagbibigay ng information kasi maling-mali po. I commiserate with Senator Angara. My name was also dragged dahil my office slide about the prices was also used by different media outlets, and noong po sinabi yung senator, wala naman nung pinangalanan, so parang it's being attributed to me or to Senator Angara. So I hope we'll be careful about it, and at the same time, again, I think yung pinakamalaking na-accomplish natin ngayong araw na ito, hindi ho tayo naka-lock in sa Sinovac. Hindi ho tayo magbabakuna at hindi tayo obligadong kunin ito unless pumasa at siguradong safe ito at mapapakinabangan talaga ng ating mga kababayan. Maraming salamat po. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Senator Villanueva. Next is Senator Richard Gordon. Senator Gordon, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be quick. Mr. President, tatalingin ko lang ang FDA, hindi po ba kayo ang primary jurisdiction na magsasabi kung anong vaccine na gagamitin?
Well, kami po ang magbibigay ng authorization para po magamit ang isang bakuna sa
Hindi naman
Pilipinas.
kayo
Pero hindi
makakapagbigay
naman,
ng authorization kundi kayo may primary jurisdiction, di ba? Kaya kayo meron kayong mga vaccine expert panel at pagkatapos ang mag-i-implement itong committee ni Secretary Galvez. Would that be correct?
yes, Mr. Senator, sa amin po yung first step.
Ang sinasabi ko lang po, hindi po ba dapat, kami mga senador, narinig na kayo namin kayo ilang beses at sa Jolly lahat, ini-discuss siya. Sa akin, kailangan pagtiwalaan namin yung talagang designated authority, ang FDA. At saka yung panel ninyo, dapat hindi matatamaan ng politika. Na yung nangyari sa dengue vaccine, hindi dapat mangyari yan. Alam mo rin yan, Eric, hindi ba? Pati yung formulary, pinakialaman, meron isang tao doon, sabi, wala na kayong magagawa. Approve na sa taas yan, kaya huwag na kayong magulo, payagan nyo na lang yan. Natatandaan nyo po ba yan? Sa dengue vaccine?
Opo, natatandaan ko po.
So kung hindi pinapakialaman yan, mataas dapat ang credibility ng FDA at ng Department of Health. Tama po ba yan?
Opo, at nakakadagdag din po yun sa confidence ng mga kababayan natin sa mga bakuna.
Kaya nga, kaya nawawalan ng bakuna. Bukod sa buong mundo, takot ang tao sa bakuna. Even in America, maraming ayaw ng bakuna. Pero lalong nagkakaroon ng agam-agam sa pagbabakuna na dahil nga maraming mga pumapasok na external matters. No? So the first thing we do now is kailangan maniwala ang tao sa gagawin ninyo. No? Pero kung in-implement ba yung mga recommendations, I'm sorry, I'll be selfish. Nag-recommend ako dyan na dapat parusahan yung mga dapat maparusahan doon sa dengue vaccine, habulin natin. Siguro baka naniwala ang tao dahil wala naman nangyari doon sa investigation dahil hindi na nakalabas sa Senado at nagkaroon na ng maraming mga suot-suot kung saan-saan. So, nagkaroon ng dagdag sa confidence dahil marami pa hanggang ngayon na umaangal sa amin na hindi sila natulungan dyan sa dengue vaccine, mga magulang. Rightly or wrongly, meron pa nagdagdag na sunog na ang eksperto, pinapakialaman yung expertise ng FDA kung ano ang tamang gamot doon, kung ano ang tama ang magiging pati yung PAO pumasok na dyan, di ba? Pati sila nag-autopsy na. So nakadagdag sa ingay ng kakulangan sa kumpiyansa. Would you say that's correct, sir?
Well, sa ngayon naman po, tuloy-tuloy pa rin po yung mga kaso doon dahil nalalaman ko po dahil nakakarating sa opisina ko pa rin ng mga subpoena para po sa mga dokumento at saka meron pa po mga summons sa FDA. Pero sa pag po na-resolve yun, malaking bagay po talaga ang katatahimik ng ating pong mga kababayan. Tsaka yung pong confidence sa bakuna, talagang kailangan po natin pabalikin.
Dahil talaga yung nangyari dyan sa bakuna na yan, minadali. Ganun na naman ang maaaring mangyari dito. Pero so far, I'm happy na andyan kayo, andyan sila Secretary Galvez, sila Secretary Vince Dizon. Pero ang pangalawang agam-agang yung ability to distribute or mag-mobilize sa mga vaccinator. Ilan po ba, Secretary of Health, ang vaccinators natin sa buong bansa? Meron ako record dito, nakakatakot Sinasabi niya meron kayong 617,239 at health facilities, private, 73,836. 64,998 sa public. DOH deployed 29,000. LGU hired 30,629. Contact tracers, 194,269. Barangay health workers, 207,320. Social workers, 17,034. Tama ho ba yan? 617,239.
Tama po yan, Your Honor.
Have we answered it? Tama po yan.
So, ito po yung mga healthcare workers, a total of 617,239. This is the data used in the COVID vaccine planning, Your Honor.
Pero yung contact tracer, gagamitin nyo sa bakuna? Barangay health workers, sila nga ang contact tracers nyo, di ba? Kasama yan. Social workers. Yan ang mga social support. Tapos gagamitin natin sa bakuna. Ilan talaga ang nagba-vaccinate? Kasi alam naman natin, mababa ang vaccination natin. Ang pinakamataas yung panahon ni Clavier. Kung di ako nagkakamali, umabot ng 6 million ba yung nabakunahan sa flu?
6, sorry, your chair, Mr. Chairman. Okay, can you please repeat what you just said?
Ang
Your Honor.
pinakamataas na nabakunahan din sa Pilipinas, ano po ang record? 6 million po ba? Sa influenza?
4 to 5 million, Your Honor, for measles and for polio.
Opo, kasama po ang Red Cross doon, di ba? Nagbakuna rin kami doon. 1 million na itulong natin sa DOH doon. Pero ang sinasabi ko, ang pinakamataas sa record, in fact, sa mga bata, kung di ako nagkakamali, ang nabakunahan about, give me a minute. Well, I'll go back to that later when I find that out. No? But anyway, nagdududa ako dito 617,239 to vaccinate 70 million Filipinos. Although, of course, hindi naman sabay-sabay yan. Habang dumarating ang gamot, ang vaccine, paunti-unti nagbabakuna tayo dito. No? So, ang problema natin sa mga kabataan, ang actual performance natin ay 2016, 70%, 67% 2017, 2018, 66%, 2019, 69%. So, hindi pa masyadong bihasa ang pagbabakuna. So, may I suggest, Mr. Secretary, would you consider, I intend to file a bill on Monday na during times of emergency, or for that matter, even without times of emergency, na dapat mag-train kayo ng vaccinators, kasama mga dentista, kasama mga veterinary medicine, kasama yung mga medtech, lahat dyan, and those kahit na walang medical background, anyway, magbabakuna lang yan, one shot lang yan na ginagawa nila, pagkaaralan nila, pwede na silang maging biyasa. Pwede ba tayong mag-train ng milyon-milyon na vaccinators, parang Israeli army, pagka may gera, 18 years old, kukunin nila lalaban sa gera? Pwede kaya yon?
Pwede ho. Maganda ho yung inyong suggestion, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, so you will support that. The DOH has no problems with that because we can put to bear millions of our young people who may want to become doctors someday and can practice with bakuna na tinrain ninyo, provided it's under clinical supervision. Tama po ba yan?
You are correct, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor.
Thank you. Then the third one that I'm concerned about is the, well, yung distribution. Marami naman tayong mga freezers na papasa, no? Pero ang isang concern ko, yung Universal Healthcare Law. Kung nahihirapan tayo, hindi po ba totoo na nakalagay sa Universal Healthcare Law that every Filipino, bawat Filipino ay dapat magrehistro sa public or private primary care provider of choice. Di po ba tama yon?
Yan po nakasaad sa batas, tama po kayo.
Nagawa na po ba yon?
Dapat ito pong taon na ito, ginawa po yan, ngunit nagkaroon po tayo ng pandemya at nalihis po yung atin efforts to the pandemic response. Kaya medyo mababa pa rin po yung atin registration doon sa mga primary care facilities. Although meron na tayong mga primary care facilities, kailangan lang ho itong i-reconcile with the PhilHealth database kasi kailangan po natin i-assign lahat ng mga PhilHealth members to their preferred primary care provider.
Kumaga isang doktor, may hawak siyang 100 tao, di po ba?
Mga ganun po, hindi ko
Okay.
lang masiguro yung ratio.
It doesn't matter, basta mayroong primary healthcare na assigned na hawak na yung records. One patient, one record na umaabot hanggang Department of Health. Yung record ng
Tama
bawat
po
pasyente.
kayo. Yeah, yes, you're right, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor.
In other words, dapat magawa na yan, panahon na. At hindi dapat maging hadlang kung may pandemya. At least habang nagpapasyal tayo at tinitignan natin yung mga tao, pwede na natin sabihan yung mga doktor na talagang yung kanilang mga tinutulungan under because silang primary healthcare provider ay magawa yan. Sa madaling sabi, diyan natin malalaman tuloy, madali natin malalaman kung sino may sakit sa primary healthcare provider na yan. Tama po ba yan?
Tama po kayo, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor.
Kung meron siyang sakit na COVID, malalaman natin. Kung hindi pa siya nababakunahan, malalaman natin. Kung kailangan na siyang bakunahan, malalaman natin. sa makatwid, pairalin lang natin ito Universal Healthcare Law, hindi na tayo mahihirapan, hindi po ba?
Tama po kayo, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor.
That's why I'm saying this before our colleagues because ang problema palagi natin ay may vision ang bayan pero pagdating na sa implementation, doon tayo kinakapos. Kahit na police, kahit na health, hindi nasusunod yung mga patakaran natin kaya lumalala ang problema at dahil sa marami tayong problema, may mga disaster tayo, that should not be a reason why we cannot implement it. And we must implement it because that is what the law provides. And if we do it, hindi tayo mahihirapan. So, in other words, the DOH should endeavor to contract private province-wide and city-wide healthcare systems under Section 17 for the delivery of population-based health services. Province-wide and city-wide health systems shall have the following minimum components. Number one, primary care provider network with patient records accessible throughout the entire health system. Nasa batas na po yan. Implement na lang natin. Kaya naman natin siguro po, magtulong-tulong lang. Ano po?
We will do that, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman.
In other words, meron tayong ginagawa, nabasa ko kay Secretary Galvez, nagagawa tayo ng mga command and control system sa mga region. So itong mga primary healthcare provider na ito, mabibigay ang records about probinsya sa region hanggang sa national government. Sa madaling sabi, meron tayong National Health Information System consisting of enterprise resource planning, human resource, information, electronic health records, and an electronic prescription log consistent with DOH standards, which can be electronically uploaded on a regular basis through interoperable systems. Hindi ba dapat gawin na po natin yan? Kung meron tayo na hindi tayo mahirapan ngayon.
Tama po kayo, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor. We really need to accelerate on this particular provision of the Universal Healthcare Law.
And of course, kung meron tayo niya, ulitin ko, it can be used for contact tracing, testing, quarantine as a total approach, which is needed, correct?
You are right, Your Honor.
And to be able to do that, meron tayong batas na sinasabi, dapat may pondo tayo. At yan ay sinasabing batas ukol dito sa Special Health Fund, Section 20. The province-wide or city-wide health system shall pool and manage through a special health fund all resources intended for health services to finance population-based and individual-based health services, health system operating costs, capital investments, and remuneration of additional health services, etc., etc. So nasa batas na naman po yan. Hindi tayo dapat nadadarang. At yung mga mayors natin, na talaga masisipag naman sila, natutuwa ako, talagang aggressive sila, kung meron silang ganyan, dapat makakadirekta na sila on their own. Masasabi nila sa Department of Health, pwede na kaming makitungo dito sa AstraZeneca o kung kanino man, and then kasama sa health information system nakalagay doon kung sino ang kinuha nila at kung sino ang tinest nila, masaswak lahat yan. Maayos natin lahat yung problema natin. Tama po ba?
Tama po kayo, Mr. Chairman.
So sa madaling sabi, it's all in front of us and we are spending 2 days already trying to find out at ano nangyayari. Hindi natin tinitingnan na naandyan na ang kapangyarihan sa atin at nakalagay pa rin dyan talaga na every Filipino shall register with a public or private primary care provider of choice. So madaling sabi, may duty ang bawat Pilipino na mag-register siya at yung DOH dapat nakalabas na yung guidelines. Nakalabas na ba yung guidelines on the licensing of primary care providers and the registration of every Filipino to a primary care provider?
Meron na po tayong guidelines, Your Honor.
Ilan na po ba nabibigyan ninyong primary healthcare provider na lisensya? Well, the fact that we still have to look for it speaks volumes. Go ahead.
9,000.
9,000. My gosh. Kulang na kulang yan, sir. So dapat talaga, tulungan namin ito. Tulungan kayo ng DOH, tulungan kayo ng lahat, pati education, para lahat ng tao makapag-register at yung kanilang primary care provider madala. Sapagkat yun na lang ang kukontak sa atin, yun na lang ang kukontakin natin kung may mga pandemya tayo. At pwede lang silang magbigay sa atin ng information na napaka-vital para ma-address sa atin ang problema. Tama po ba yan?
Tama po kayo. Your Honor, yung 9,000, kung naalala ko, ito po ay good for supposedly this year. And then another, may targets po kami, hindi ko po memoryado yung mga punteriya or targets.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it looks difficult, but I think it can be done. Sabi nga ni Senator Soto kanina, Senator President Soto, haste makes waste. But upon the other hand, we cannot forever be slow, and we must make sure that sabi nga ni Juan, the impossible will take a little longer to achieve. But if we do this, sinasabi ko sa mga nanonood at nakikinig, hindi tayo ganito kalaki ang problema, and our healthcare system will be robust. Kaya kahit anong hamon. Kaya meron tayong H1N1, kaya meron tayo COVID ngayon. Kung meron tayong ganyan, yan ang sistemang ginawa ng inyong Kongreso, ng inyong Senate at saka lower house para magawa lahat itong mga hinaharap natin problema ngayon. Yan ang sinasabi ko lang po. Dahil kung minsan, nasa harap na natin ng solusyon, hindi pa natin nagagawa. So, isa pang gusto ko malaman kay Secretary Galvez, kung kukuha yung mga mayor ng kanilang healthcare, kayo mga ang laking tulong sa gobyerno because lugar na gastusin ng gobyerno yung taxpayers' money, tumutulong yung mga businessmen katulad nila Cynthia Villar, katulad ng mga Delgados o sino man dyan, tulad San Miguel, pagbibigay sila at pagkatapos meron pang counterpart dyan. Yan rin ang tangka ng Red Cross kung papayagan kami. 1:1, no? Sa madaling sabi, nakakatipid ang gobyerno. Kaya yung ating primary target na dapat makabalik sa trabaho yung mga manggagawa, ito ang pinaka-the best na ginawa ninyo, Secretary Galvez, na kung magagawa yan, makakabalik ang mga nagtatrabaho sa kanilang pinapasukan at pati na rin yung mga driver, pati na rin yung mga lahat, kutsero, lahat ng mga tao na kailangan magtrabaho, mga peddler, pagka nagawa yan, ay talagang hindi na tayo malulunod sa kahirapan sapagkat kahit na may pandemic, ginagawa na natin yung ating vaccination at pagkatapos ay nakakatulong tayo sa paglikha ng hanapbuhay na hindi na sila aasa sa gobyerno. Tama po ba yan, Secretary Galvez?
You're correct, Your Honor.
Well, I just want to make sure that we all understand and we're all on the same page. Gusto ko yung sinasabi nyo, equitable access. At again, ang iingatan lang natin, walang mauuna, sabay-sabay lahat at unahin natin yung dapat mauna sapagkat katulad ng mga healthcare workers, katulad ng mga healthcare providers natin, dapat nakatayo yan at saka yung mga magtatrabaho. Yung mga senior citizens, okay rin yan. They can stay in the house in the meantime protecting themselves. That's just my take. Isa pang problema na maaaring mangyari dyan, baka mag-double handling. Nakakatulong ang negosyo sa gobyerno, pero kung hihintayin pa nila kung kailan lang makukuha yan, mabilis ba nyo maibibigay kaagad yung kanilang binayaran ng mga vaccine? Kukunin nyo muna yung share ng gobyerno, tapos ibabalik nyo sa kanila yung vaccine, yung kanilang share sa vaccine. Kailangan mabilis yan. Tama po ba yan?
Balis po sir, priority na po natin yung in order po ng LGU and we will talk to the manufacturer po na kung pwede ma-priority. That's why yung government po sa iba po bumili para yung AstraZeneca concentrated po sa kanila.
Sa akin nga, ang plano ko kung papayagan ng Red Cross, 1:1. Isang bata sa eskwela may kaya, mag-ampong ka ng kapatid mo, mag-ampong ka ng ibang tao na nasa probinsya, nasa public school, at humingi ka sa tatay mo ng konting babayad doon sa kanyang gagamitin para mabakunahan rin siya. So, ibig sabihin, huwag natin dagdagan ng bureaucracy dyan. Basta nakalagay malinaw yan, katulad ng negosyo, nagbigay kami ng pera dyan. Halimbawa, sabi nila, ibigay nyo sa amin kagad para mabakunahan namin yung mga nagtatrabaho sa amin. At saka sa baba, yung mga eskwela, may kaya ito, tulungan mo yung kaklase mo hindi makabayad para mabilis. Sa madaling sabi, nakahati natin yung problema right away at yun na lang hindi mako-cover niya. Mas mabilis sa natin ma-handle yan. Would you say that's a step in the right direction, sir?
Yes, sir. We will do it without delay and we will be flexible po, sir.
After the response, we would like Senator Gordon to wrap up, please. That's over 10 minutes already. Go ahead.
Really? Bilis naman 10 minutes. Anyway, sir, just a final question, if you like. Si Secretary Hoven na andyan, yung bang donation yan, what does it take part of? Is that a donation or a tax-deductible expense yung binigay nila? Because under the Internal Revenue Code, donation to the government of the Philippines, or including fully owned government and corporations exclusively to finance to provide for to be used in undertaking priority activities in education and health, shall be tax deductible. Tama po ba yun, Secretary Hoven? Secretary Hoven?
Sir, ang ano po namin, kung inihiling nga po namin sa Senado, kung magkaroon po tayo ng talagang exempt yung vaccine, ay mas maganda po dahil kasi po, pagka po talagang na-delay po sa customs at saka po sa ano po, kakaroon po ng delay, dapat po talaga this is a very critical asset. Kailangan po dire-diretso po sa warehouse.
Ipalagay ko, sir, certification lang yan nung ninyo at saka ng negosyante na nagpapasok siya ng gamot at yung finance department, meron na silang agreement with the customs sa pagkaganyan at may certification na matitrace, dapat tax deductible na yan pag pumasok, even sa income tax deductible. I don't think you need the law, the Congress to enact another law to do that. That's just my opinion, but we will look into what you're suggesting and make it more specific. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, Secretary Galvez. We're praying for you, for your success, Secretary Vince, Dizon, and all of you, because we have only one country.
All right, thank you, Senator Gordon. Thank you very much. Next is Senator Cynthia Villar. You have 10 minutes. All right, she's not on. Senator Marcos, Senator Amy Marcos is recognized. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I'd just like to take the opportunity to once again inquire on behalf of the ULAP, led by Governor Dax, and by the City Mayors League, of course, led by Apo Bing, and also Justice Bresby, the head of my former league, the Governors League. Naniniwala naman tayo sa FDA, ano? Mahigpit naman yung pagsuri ng FDA para sa atin. May I ask the FDA, we comply with the highest standards of checking, of testing, and so on. Isn't that correct?
Yes, ma'am. We go through the designated process. We have our vaccine, we have our experts looking at the safety and efficacy data. And then we have our regulatory experts naman po to look at the quality of the product before we even consider approving it.
Hence, it can be said that once you get FDA approval, even if it's the EUA and it's not for commercial sale, the FDA's guarantee is a reliable one. Would not the DOH also agree to that, Secretary Duque?
Oh, yes, absolutely, ma'am. We do agree.
Hence, I'm very perplexed by the statement of Secretary Galvez earlier that despite an FDA approval that is long awaited and conforms to the highest standards internationally with regards to vaccination, why is it that during the interpellation earlier, Secretary Galvez said that all vaccines, regardless of whether they're bought by private corporations, by LGUs, will need to go back to the DOH upon arrival at customs. At the airport, the DOH will nab 100% all of the vaccines to inspect and release them first. Why is that the case? If they have FDA approval, would it not be a more efficient way that the LGUs and the private companies simply choose from the approved vaccines, and thereafter these vaccines will be directly released to the purchasers, whether they are LGUs or commercial operations? Bakit hindi pwedeng gano'n na lang kasimple?
Madam Senator, Mr. Chair, ang bakuna po kasi sa FDA, kapag po pumasok dito, meron po kasi tayong lot release and batch release. Hindi po siya katulad ng ibang gamot, no? Kasi these are very sensitive products. So kailangan po, bago siya makalabas, makita po talaga natin kung sumunod siya sa tamang cold chain. Tapos may mga indicator po yun, kung nabuksan, kung nagkamali ng temperature. And then we take samples, nagra-random sampling po tayo para i-test. Kung po kasing kaya po usually, gobyerno lang ang bumibili kasi isang buong shipment po na malaki. Kung marami pong sabay-sabay na maliliit na shipment, baka mahihirapan naman po tayo na mag-inspect at mag-check ng quality ng mga bakuna pagdating. So in terms of delivery po, talagang mas madali kung malalaki na delivery na sabay-sabay na sa isang warehouse po dating titingnan bago po ilabas.
Pwede ba namin malaman, dahil nga, yung FDA approval, nirereklamo ng lahat na pagkatagal-tagal. Ang sabi po ninyo, 2 weeks kakayanin ninyo. Pero nasa dyaryo, nasa 21 days, ang katotohanan, wala pang na-approve ni isa. So, kapag napakatagal ng FDA approval, pagkatapos niyan, dadaan pa sa DOH, babalik na naman sa FDA pagdating. Ilang buwan na yan pag dumating yan? Pagkatagal-tagal. Can you give us a timeline in addition to the time motion, step-by-step narration of Secretary Galvez? May timeline po ba yan ang application? Maliban sa Sinovac?
Yes, Madam Senator, yun pong aming 6 months, naiksi na po namin yan to 21 days. Basta po merong EUA from Stringent Regulatory Authority at yung kauna-unahan po naming application na nilodge noong December 23, na-release po namin yon within 21 days kahapon. Kaya po may EUA na po ang Pfizer. Yun po mga susunod natin na application, mga January po yun na
Pero
apply.
iba
So,
pa yun
tapos po namin yan.
Doc, with all due respect, yung rine-refer ninyo, yung FDA application. So, hindi pala 2 weeks. Pinapaliwanag natin na 21 days ang application. Tama po ba?
Yes, ma'am, for an emergency use authorization po.
Okay, for the EUA, it's 21 days, not 2 weeks as previously asserted. Ngayon, pag pumasok na yan sa customs, halimbawa nasa airport na, sabi ninyo, kailangan i-inspect kung proper handling and transport through the cold chain if necessary and so on. Gaano katagal from the arrival at customs or in the airport, gaano katagal bago ma-release yan sa halimbawa sa LGU?
Ang inspection po ng FDA within 24 hours po yon. Darating po ang aming ahente doon, titingnan po yung mga papeles at saka kukuha po ng sample.
So yung sinasabi po ninyo, pag dumating, lumapag sa airport, 24 hours marirelease na ng customs, marirelease na rin ng FDA, o ang kinatatakutan po namin ay magkaturuan na naman at napakatagal.
Sa FDA po, within 24 hours po yon.
So you're saying in 24 hours. So all told, we are talking about a period of how long do you approximate? 21 days for approval, pagkatapos yung bayaran at yung negotiation, pagkatapos yung pagpasok sa Pilipinas. Ilang araw po yun?
Madam Senator, yun pong approval, isang beses lang po yon. So yung approval po namin ng Pfizer, for example, na EUA, for all the Pfizer products na po yun for the rest of the year.
Okay,
So
understood.
wala po kailangan na approval.
Hindi, pero for that first transaction, for that first importation, gaano katagal from end to end?
Oh, ma'am, hindi na po sa amin yun, yung procurement at saka yung delivery.
Hindi, yung saksakan ng bilis, katulad ni Senator Villar at yung mga private companies. Pero ang sinasabi ninyo, 24 hours pag dumating na sa airport. Sigurado po yun, ha? Sure tayo. Kasi baka...
Darating po yung FDA, yung inspector po ng FDA within 24 hours po yun dahil napaka-delikado po kasi ng mga bakuna, so immediately po pinupuntahan niya.
Okay, yung customs naman, nag-usap na ba kayo para mabilisan yung paglabas niyan? Kasi kinatatakutan natin yung nangyari sa New York na tinapon na lang yung sangkatutak na Moderna. Kasi nga hindi na proper handling. Sa kamahalan nito at sa pagkadelikado, talagang kailangan mabilis. Ano? So, are there any guarantees that we can get this out as quickly as possible? Nandito ba yung customs? Nandito sila dati. Talaga bang kaya natin yan ilabas kaagad-agad? Kasi siyempre may sense of urgency naman dapat at emergency talaga itong buong yung ginagawa natin. So, if there's no one who's going to answer, I just like to put it on record that we have the assurance of the FDA and apparently the customs and the DOH that the LGUs and the private companies that will import on their own are assured of 24-hour release upon arrival at the airports by customs and the FDA as well. Sana nga maisatupad yan kasi kailangan natin. Ikalawa, I wanted to ask also about some questions regarding the halal certification because our brothers and sisters in the BARM area have not received any answer despite repeated queries to the DOH. Halal ba yan at angkop sa ating mga kapatid na Muslim? Maybe yung DOH makakapagsagot or ganun din yung FDA kasi hawak naman ninyo yung mga datos niyan. Wala pa tayong findings kung halal o hindi para masagot naman natin yung agam-agam ng mga Muslim.
Well, Madam Senator, Mr. Chair, well, sa FDA po, wala po silang sinubmit na halal certification. So far, wala pa pong nag-apply sa amin na merong halal certification.
So, should we not require this because there's a quite significant number of our population that are inquiring, ano? Okay. Are you going to do it? Can't you do it on your own, even without a query, just to make sure that our Muslim provinces will not be worried about the use of this vaccine? Maghihintay pa ba kayo na mag-a-apply yung iba? Hindi ba pwede kayo na lang mag-testing yan para malaman natin?
Madam Chair, hindi po kasi ang testing for halal, hindi po siya parang regular chemical or it's based on the religious beliefs. So opo, hindi po siya nagagawa ng FDA. Meron lamang pong mga pinapayagan mag-test for halal. Hindi po kasama ang FDA doon.
Yes, pasensya na lang kasi talagang nagmamadali tayo rito. Sana tulungan na lang natin ang Mindanao at yung ating mga kapatid na Muslim na maklear na ito para sa halal. There is no concern in the FDA or the DOH that less than 5% Asians have actually used it and the data that we have is not disaggregated. I know that India, which is very, very advanced pharmaceutically, has already complained that the data on Asian testing is not available. I understand you answered that earlier, pero parang 4% hindi naman nakakakumbinse.
Madam Chair, so what we ask is we do ask them to segregate the Asian data. But 4% po kasi dahil malalaki naman po yung mga malalaki naman po yung mga studies about 40,000. So 40% is about 1,600 and the mga 1,600 to 2,000 po yung mga Asians na kasama. At nung nakita naman po, wala naman nakita kaming safety issues. For example, do sa first na in-approve natin na EUA. But it is true talaga pong medyo yung Asian data, of course, is not as robust.
Yeah, that's right. Kasi yung di ba nabanggit na ni Senator Tol kanina at saka alam naman natin yung mga comorbidities, yung pregnancy, tapos yung mga allergic, anaphylaxis, di ba lahat yun may problema sa vaccine, miski yung Pfizer na sinasabing pinaka-safe. So, kung sana, tuloy-tuloy tayo nagre-record keeping at alamin sa ibang bansa kung ano nangyayari kasi hanggang ngayon wala pang assurance. At last, Mr. President, I'd just like to make a manifestation in support of Senator Drilon's query, Senator Lacson. Alamin natin maigi kung bakit yung Sinovac na hindi man lang nag-apply sa FDA ang vaccine ng kauna-unahan na approve ng NTF. Si Senator Nancy nagtanong din ng ganyan. Pinakamababang ang efficacy niyan, -50%, at siya yung pinakamahal. dapat siguro suriin at balikan natin yung kasaysayan ng Sinovac. Kasi laging nauuna maglabas ng vaccine niya. Noong 2003 sa SARS, noong 2009 sila na naman nagpakitang gilas sa swine flu. Pagkatapos, nagulat na lang tayo sa Sinovac, yung CEO, yung bossing nila, in open court, nagdeklara na binayaran pala nila lahat ng China regulators, yung katumbas ng FDA natin. At para maiwasan makulong, umamin na lang na pareho silang tumanggap ng pera. Dahil sa mga pangyayaring ito, masisisi ba natin ang taong bayan at ang buong Pilipinas na magtanong, sino ba kumita? Yun lang po. Maraming salamat, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Marcos. Next is Senator Francis Pangilinan. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will have a few questions for our vaccine SAR. Earlier, napag-usapan yung rollout. I'm not very clear as to the amounts, but correct me if I'm wrong, General Galvez. You said that in February 20 of this year, you will have the first vaccination, and most likely it'll be Pfizer. We have no figures as to how much. In the middle of February, you believe that the COVAX vaccine facility, the program, will bring in also their vaccines. We also don't have a number. And then you mentioned March, 1 million, and then April, 2 billion. So from February to April, the first 4 months of the vaccination rollout, what is your estimated number of vaccines to be delivered and rolled out?
Sir, if we will have the vaccines from the COVAX and also from Sinovac, if if they will pass the UA, we might have more or less around 50,000 or 100,000 for February. But we have no definitive numbers for the COVAX, considering that we're still applying. But the definitive for February is the 50,000, and then 150,000 for March.
Yes, we ask these questions because, of course, your target is 70 million within 2021. Pero yung first 4 months mo hindi pa maliwanag. May we be assured by the IATF vaccine SAR that as soon as you have the numbers, the Senate be informed of the rollout numbers based on the actual deliveries, so that we can monitor the targets that are 70 million within 2021, 70 million vaccinations.
Yes, sir. Once we have the supply agreement signed, and also we have definitive negotiations with the vaccine makers, we will make a report. We will comply, sir.
Yes, perhaps, and this is up to the Senate. Maybe we can have another opportunity for this to be reported before the Senate as a committee of the whole, or well, I leave that to the Senate leadership as soon as the data comes in and as soon as developments, critical developments take place. On the issue of yung sa DOH, tama mo yan, ito muna. Nabanggit yung January 30 master list, kompleto na yan for recipients as well as master list of resources to be used. Tama po ba yun, General Galvez?
Yes, sir. Starting next week, sir, we will have some sort of visitation with the different LGUs, and we will validate all the listing, and also we will check their early preparation.
May we also request that this master list be furnished, of course, subject to confidentiality and privacy, that it be furnished the Senate, so that we have a sense of who are, kasi importante ho yung listahan eh. And we would like to make sure that we are apprised by, these key indicators of whether or not we are succeeding in the vaccine rollout.
We'll comply po, sir.
Yes, thank
Your
you.
Honor.
And this also refers to this question on the private sector, 50% lamang ang pwedeng maibigay sa private sector. Ganon din ang LGU, tama po ba? They can only purchase 50% of their requirements at this time. Just to establish that, and is it if I correctly recall, tama ba 'yon?
Sir, yung sa LGU po, nagkaroon kami ng early coordination na magkaroon lang po ng cap kasi may tendency po na pakyawin po ng isang LGU yung quota, and it will deny yung equitable access po ng ibang maliliit po na order. So what we want to have is really an equitable access for all LGUs, so that the other LGUs will have the same opportunity to access the vaccine. And
Okay,
then yung sa
yeah.
private sector po, yung 50% po will be given to their workers, and the 50% will be the priority sector of the government.
Yes, dito sa LGU, this applies to all, no? Even if whether you can afford it to buy 100%, you will only be allowed 50% sa LGU. Tama po ba 'yon? So itong Makati, for example, Quezon City, kalahati lang ng kanilang vaccine requirements ang pwede nilang bilhin, even if they have the funds for it.
Yes, sir. Yun po ang arrangement po namin, so that we could allow also the other LGUs.
Yes.
But in case there are no LGUs ordering, we can allow. We will be flexible. We will be
Yes.
flexible po, sir.
I understand there will be flexibility depending on how things develop. Tama po 'yon, no? My
Yes, sir.
concern,
That's correct.
yes, my concern
That's
now
correct.
is the reason why we are enabling local governments, we are enabling the private sector is as observed by Senator Recto earlier, kasi nababagalan sa national government bureaucracy. And we cannot blame them. Napakabagal nung umpisa yung accreditation ng testing centers, yung training ng mga gagawa ng testing, yung ang daming delays, no? Yung pag-release ng PPEs, dinirekta lahat sa isang I forget which office was that, Office of Civil Defense, tapos hindi ma-distribute habang yung ating mga yung ating mga frontliners ay umiiyak na dahil wala na silang PPEs at nagkakasakit kaliwat kanan habang nakatambak dun sa OCD yung mga PPEs at equipment. Ang fear natin dito is how long can, for example, the private sector after the purchase be able to administer these vaccines to their companies and the LGUs. Pagdating dito sa sa customs, pagdating dito sa warehouse, gaano katagal bago i-turn over sa ating mga LGUs? Bakit kinakailangan pang idaan? Halimbawa, for example, sa Quezon City, merong Quezon City General Hospital. Ang Makati, meron yung hospital ng Makati. Meron silang kapasidad, or they probably will prepare to make sure that they can receive these vaccines, di ba? Bakit hindi na lang idiretso sa kanila? Can we be also flexible in this regard? Kasi ang worry natin dito, yung burokrasya na naman, di ba? Hindi na naman marirelease kaagad, nakatenga, maapektuhan yung rollout.
Yes, sir. We will be flexible on that matter, sir. That's why we will have a supply agreement being signed by the LGU, the national government, and the supply provider. And we will be flexible in the contract. If we agree that the inspection will be done in the warehouse of the LGU and they are capable, we will do, sir.
In fact, dapat best practices eh. Pagka nakita natin
Yes, sir.
maganda ang rollout ng Pasig o kaya ng Quezon City o kaya ng Manila, dapat templating all the more na mabigyan ng dagdag na papel at dagdag na kapangyarihan at dagdag na resources ang mga local governments para talagang yung rollout. I cannot see, to be honest, General Galvez, and I know your efforts have been gallant and over and above the call of duty, but I cannot see a successful rollout if we will rely, and no offense meant, on the DOH alone. I worry that we might have a deja vu, and that's why we want to be on top of the situation. We want you to succeed, General Galvez. And we believe that what was lacking before was precisely the effective engagement of LGUs, effective engagement of the private sector in the COVID response. And I think we should learn from the last 11 months, get the energetic, dynamic local governments involved because they are directly accountable at silang nakatutok sa baba, and get the private sector involved. And that will be actually your foot soldiers. I'd like you to be a general with an army. But if your army is the DOH alone, baka, I'm sorry, I know there are a lot of committed, dedicated officials and employees in the Department of Health. But the last 11 months, I would like to, avoid a repeat of what happened in the last 11 months in many of the delays that was caused. And speaking of the DOH, nabanggit kanina, there are 4,512 vaccination centers, and magkakaroon ng needs assessment, Secretary Duque. May we have, what are the top 3 needs at this point of these 4,512? I want to have a sense of where we are in terms of the capacity of these vaccination centers to be able to roll out the vaccine, vaccination.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I have said, we are preparing for a 4,504 vaccination sites with 3 vaccination teams per site, and 100 people can be vaccinated per team. So if we are going to vaccinate, say, 24.6 million individuals, this will take, kung non-Pfizer ang vaccine, it will take about a total of 45 days. And then kung Pfizer first and second dose will take about 25 days. Now, ano po mga kailangan dito? 3 bagay po, yung human resource complement. We are doing a master listing of all of the human resource requirement. The ancillary services, the peripherals, yung pong mga PPEs na kakailanganin ng ating mga human resource once they vaccinate individuals. Of course, meron po tayong mga pangailangan for every step of the rollout or implementation plan. Mag-umpisa po yan doon sa registration, tapos doon po sa counseling and final consent form for the vaccinees. Kasi kailangan po ng consent form dito, hindi po pwede magpilitan. Tapos meron po tayong mga kinakailangan din for screening, for the actual vaccination, and then for the post-vaccination surveillance, monitoring, and reporting. So we can just give you a list of all of the peripherals under each of the stages of the vaccine rollout.
Okay, sabi niyo 4,504, 1,912 ang ospital, 2,592 ang rural health units. Ilan dito ang private sector?
Kasama na po rito, we can give you a breakdown. Can you just give me just a second, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, and nabanggit kanina ni Senator Recto yung usapin nung baka dapat palawigin pa, ikonsidera ang iba pang mga venue. Nabanggit niya yung mga classrooms, maybe for social distancing, pwedeng mga gymnasium din. Dapat magkaroon ng inventory. In-inventory nyo na rin yung hospital, in-inventory na rin nyo yung RH rural health units, baka maaring i-inventory na rin ang possible gymnasiums, convention center, etc. kung saan maaring magkaroon ng ganitong mass vaccination.
We will work with the DepEd, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
to expand our provider capacity.
And like I said, what are your top 3 needs for these 4,504 Off the top of your head, ano ang kulang pa pag nag-umpisa yung vaccine rollout ng February 20?
Well, yung PPEs, of course, no? Because we are doing this in the context of a pandemic.
So PPEs, PPEs, ano pa?
PPEs. Of course, yung syringes, although right now we have still 30 million syringes, no? But we will need beyond, I think,
That's just
July, mga auto discharge syringes.
Yes. So kalahati lang 'yun ng 70 million target niyo for the year. So talagang kinakailangan ding siguraduhin yung availability nito. So
yung mga safety collector boxes and then the surgical face mask, meron na po akong listahan dito. I can just submit, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, and also the corresponding cost that will be incurred to complete the supply required for our 70 million individuals who will be vaccinated within the year.
yung 25,000 na vaccinators, lahat 'yon trained na? Hindi pa.
Well, nagro-roll out po. Ang may mga I will just have to get the update on how many what percent of the total vaccinators has been trained, Your Honor.
So can we have also a submission of how many have been trained, how many have yet to be trained?
Yes, we will do that, Your Honor.
And what about the 176,000 BHW for screening, information dissemination? Do they also have to go through training?
Yes, certainly, Your Honor.
And can we also have a status report on the how many have been trained, how many more will be trained before the vaccine rollout on the 20th as targeted?
Yeah, we will do that as part of the competency building that is required in the vaccination implementation.
Yes, a doctor from St. Luke's as well as a Makati Med practicing doctor has raised the concern about the vaccine rollout. I assume, I think you've had, or was it Secretary Galvez who said, they have already met this week with the private hospitals and there has been a summit of sort because she said wala pa silang naririnig as of yesterday or the other day. Wala pa silang briefing, wala pa silang information na naibibigay sa kanila tungkol nga sa private sector, private hospital fraud.
So I am told, Your Honor, that there has been meetings between the DOH and the public and the private hospitals to explain to them the national immunization rollout plan and exactly what their role is in this scheme of things and what will be required of them. And also, I understand the targets are have also been laid out for the private vaccination sites.
Yes. Dito sa yes.
Yes, time is up.
Okay, I'll just wrap.
Please wrap up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Senate President. Just one more point, perhaps. Well, going back to what Senator Drilon said earlier, while nearly half are afraid to be vaccinated or are unwilling, another 27%, if I'm not mistaken, are uncertain, and that's why we really need to get the best, the most effective vaccines for our people and not settle for pwede na. Because that will be precisely one of the factors for convincing the 47% who are unwilling to be vaccinated and another 27% who are not sure whether they want to be vaccinated or not. That is another major factor that they are told and they know that we are getting the best. We are not settling for second best in terms of choices for vaccinating our citizens given this pandemic.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Senator, and that's why it is imperative on the part of the DOH and the Philippine Information Agency and all of our partners insofar as the conduct of our demand generation, risk communication is concerned. We will really focus on the scientific experts who pass upon all these vaccines, and to ensure that they're safe, that they're efficacious, they're of quality, and in accordance with the regulatory standards. No? That's why we have the EUA. And so there will be a portfolio of vaccines, and this is not just going to come from one country. But regardless of the country of origin, it will be time and again, as we have said, science driven. It is data-based that will clearly highlight how effective and safe these vaccines are. So that's the direction, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman.
I have no other questions, Mr. President. We yield the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Pangilinan. Senator Rizal de Veros, recognized. You have 10 minutes.
Salamat po, Mr. President, at magandang hapon pa rin sa lahat ng ating mga resource persons. Sa presentasyon po ni Sec. Galvez, mayroong mga 7 brand ng bakunang pamimilian sa maaring bilhin at kasalukuyang dumadaan sa negosasyon. Pero ang mga tagapagsalita ng Malacanang, pinamumukhat, pinalalabas na wala tayong choice, kundi ang isang Chinese brand. Bakit nga ba dito tayo tila nakatuon? Gayong hindi pa nga ganap na malinaw ang efficacy nitong nasabing bakuna. Para po sa akin, Mr. President, in any case, hindi issue kung saan at kanino manggagaling ang mga bakunang gagamitin laban sa COVID-19. Ang mahalaga at para sa publiko din ay kung garantisado ba itong mabisa, ligtas para gamitin at darating sa takdang panahon. So, unang tanong po para sa FDA ulit. Sa nakaraang hearing, nabanggit po ni DG Domingo na ang isa sa dahilan kung bakit hindi pinapayagan ng LGUs at private sector na mag-procure ng vaccine ay para nasa national government ang accountability. So sige po, assuming na roll out ang vaccination program, at wag naman sana, pero kung may magkaroon ng unintended consequence sa kalusugan ng binakunahan, that there's real proof of harm. Actually, tanong ko na lang ito kay Sec. Galvez. Sec, sino po sa IATF ang aako ng responsibilidad at mananagot sa taong bayan? Sino ang maaring kasuhan kung hinakailangan sa task force? Paano hahabulin ng gobyerno din ang pananagutan ng mga manufacturer at distributor ng mga vaccines? And overall, what would be the available mechanisms for the public to hold national government and the manufacturers accountable?
Sir, ma'am, during this pandemic, may ano po tayo sa indemnification considering that we have the risk. Ang ano po talaga ang responsible is the national government. If you will speak about who will be responsible, I myself will be responsible on what I'm doing right now. That's why, and also all of our members of the NTF, we are held responsible on this on this negotiation. That's why we wanted that this negotiation will be transparent and to be diligent. It should be science-based, so that the recommendations of the vaccine expert panel and also the approval of the FDA will be strictly followed. That's why in our negotiation, it was preceded by series of evaluation by the vaccine expert panel, and also we consulted the EDSTAG on the proper on what vaccine will be safe and effective and also affordable. So in terms of responsibility, I will take care of the responsibility because the President have said that in this procurement process, I will be held responsible for this, together with Secretary Lorenzana and also Secretary Anyo.
So salamat, Sec Galvez, so in-affirm nyo yung accountability ng national government simula pa sa presidente hanggang po sa inyong sarili at yung mga ibang members ng NTF. Sa panig naman po ng gobyerno, kung magkaroon itong ganitong hindi natin ninanais na adverse incident o consequence, paano ng national government hahabulin ng accountability ng mga manufacturers at distributors ng vaccines?
If I may be allowed, Mr. Chairman, Madam Senator, kaya
Yes,
meron
please,
po sana kaming panukala, Madam Senator, na kung pwede po ikonsidera ng Kongreso ang pagpasa po o sali sa Bayanihan 3 Act, yung indemnification for adverse events. Hindi naman po kasi pwede ipagkaila na hindi mangyayari o walang mangyayari mga adverse events. Hopefully wala. Pero alam naman po natin kahit na papaano itong po mga bakuna ay talagang may kaakibat na mga adverse events. Pero subject to the evaluation kung ito ba ay serious o non-serious adverse events following immunization or adverse events of special interest. So ito pong indemnification fund na amin pong ipinapanukala ay para po doon sa mga kababayan natin na pagka naturukan ay magkaroon po ng adverse effects, no? Or side effects, no? Following immunization. So sa amin din pong panukala o sa amin pong suggestion, kung pwede yung gawin independent of the indemnification fund na meron na po naman nakalagay sa COVAX, pero mas maganda ho siguro hiwalay if there is a legislative space to accommodate this particular policy that we would like to present to you, to the Senate, and so para manage po natin itong mga adverse events na ito. So marami po kaming mga policies na kung pwede po namin na alam ko baka nasumiti na po ito for your kind consideration lang po na baka pwede isa batas.
Salamat, Sec Duque. Noted po yon, bagamat wala pa ngang consensus dito sa Senado kung magsusulong ng Bayanihan 3. But in any case, I think ang lumalabas naman in the past many hours nitong pagdinig ay habang mas mahusay na gagawin yung mga unang steps ng pagpili at pag-procure nitong mga bakuna, mas maiiwasan at mas magkakaroon ng vaccine confidence ang publiko na maiwasang magkaroon niyang mga adverse incidents o adverse consequences. Mabalik lang po, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, kay Sec Galvez dahil nabanggit na rin po kanino yung mga bukod sa LGUs, yung mga private sector. Kanina po, sinabi rin po ni PA Concepcion, ang banggit ay mga conglomerate pa lamang ang pumapasok sa tripartite agreement. Sa mga LGUs naman po, ang mga provincial authorities ang siyang consolidator para sa need o demand ng mga munisipyo at component cities. Ano pong mechanisms ang available para naman sa ating mga MSMEs na gusto ding bumili para sa kanilang mga trabahante? Via DTI din po ba yung route nila at kung sakali papaano ang proseso?
Yun po ang usapan po namin, no, nagkaroon kami po ng cabinet meeting nung last Monday. Nag-usap po kami ni Secretary Ramon Lopez at yun nga po ang nilapit niya na maraming SMMEs na talagang gusto pong kumuha rin po ng vaccine, and also some of the businessmen na talaga pong gusto rin pong mag-donate. So napagkasunduan po namin na pwede po siya mag-consolidate through DTI. At meron din po, pwede rin po tayo sa Go Negosyo. So pwede rin po yung ganung draft po.
Pero clarify lang, Sec Galvez, pati po sa mga MSMEs. So hindi po sila mga conglomerate, pero sabi niyo po ba, tama ba na ang DTI ay pwedeng tumulong na i-consolidate yung mga nais nilang i-procure para sa kanilang mga trabahante. Hindi ko sigurado kung MSMEs kaya pang mag-donate sa national government, pero matutulungan po ba sila ng DTI para mag-procure para sa kanilang mga empleyado at manggagawa?
That's correct, Madam Senator.
Thank you, Sec Galvez. Sec Duque, follow up lang po dun sa pinag-usapan natin kanina, yung binanggit nyo pong indemnification fund. So yun po yung proposal. Pero sa proposal po ba nyo, Sec Duque, sa indemnification fund, pondo ng gobyerno ang gagamitin kung sakaling palpak or pumalpak ang manufacturer?
Kasi po itong indemnification fund is really meant to compensate for kung nagkaroon po ng problema health-wise doon po sa mga nabakunahan. So para po sa mga kababayan po natin, pero kasi yung hahabulin natin yung mga vaccine manufacturing companies, parang mahirap po. Kung naalala ko, ang sinasabi nga nila, dapat hindi sila maging liable kung may nangyaring masama dahil nga under the pandemic circumstances, sila lang nga daw po ito gumastos ng napakamalaki para sa research and development, trials, etc. Tapos kung may mangyayari, habulin pa sila, hindi na raw nila kakayanin. So para may ganun po na punto sila. Hindi ko lang po maalala yung sa COVAX. Baka si
Precisely, Sec
Secretary
Duque.
Galvez.
Iniisip ko rin po kasi parang ang hirap naman kung babayaran ng gobyerno natin kung may pagkukulang yung mga manufacturers. And in fact, just before you mentioned the COVAX, I was about to say na, well, kung sakali mang i-consider namin ito dito sa Kongreso, hihingi pa kami ng gabay mula sa DOH at sa WHO, lalo na sa konteksto po ng COVAX initiative. Kung ano yung mga tamang prinsipyong dapat mag-govern sa anumang yung tulad ng proposed ninyong indemnification fund. So salamat Sec Duque. Mr. Chair, Mr. President, tanungin ko po yung I'd like to ask the WHO through Dr. Abea Singe. The international minimum standard set for the COVID vaccine efficacy by WHO is 50%, and yes, the desirable efficacy has been set by the organization at 70%, as several of my colleagues also mentioned earlier. Dr. Abea Singe, what are the other criteria recommended by the WHO for evaluation and selection, specifically for the Philippines?
Thank you, Madam Senator, for the question. We have not specifically set criteria for individual countries. That particular criterion which we mentioned was a criterion that was identified when the research into COVID vaccines was starting as a possible product profile for a candidate vaccine, which would be acceptable for global public health as a global public good. Besides that, we have set criteria which we have articulated on our website for research and development. I will be happy to share that with you. And those pertain to safety and other components of it. But those were all criteria that a future vaccine should meet, but not specifically for any product that was meant to be used in one or other country. That was to facilitate a research agenda for the many research agencies that were undertaking vaccine development, so that they were clear that what kind of product would be acceptable at the end of it.
And even at this later stage of research and development into the COVID-19 vaccines, Dr. Abea Singe, you would say to us Filipinos that we should feel confident that we can evaluate and select the proper vaccine or vaccines for our population as long as we follow those criteria earlier on set by the WHO.
Well, Madam Senator, what's happening now is that there are several candidate vaccines which have come, and their respective developers and manufacturers claim varying degrees of efficacies based on ongoing and completed phase 3 trials in different countries. The none of the vaccines have actually completed their phase 3
Yes.
trials, and this is an ongoing process. So we don't have a final efficacy value for any candidate vaccine. What we now have, based on the massive impact of the pandemic, is a situation where WHO has agreed to grant emergency use listing based on currently available evidence shared by the manufacturers of efficacy and safety to minimize the impact of the pandemic. That is particularly why WHO is emphasizing that we need this prioritization for use. It's not that the vaccines have been certified safe for marketing and general public use. We are still urging member nations that as they roll out the vaccines to minimize the effect of the pandemic and to protect lives, that they need to have systems to monitor for potential side effects and to report those so that we can subsequently make a better assessment as vaccines move to the next stages.
Thank you, Dr. Besinge. I guess what my colleagues and I have been saying during this whole day is simply that using the latest available findings and recommendations from organizations like the WHO, that we empower ourselves to make the best possible decisions we can make. Thank you, Doctor.
That's correct, Madam. And
Yes.
if I may add,
Yes, please.
what WHO is also doing is WHO is looking very carefully at the data that is being shared by the manufacturers and the researchers. And it's only based on that that WHO is granting emergency use listing. So from all of the vaccines currently available, we have been sharing with member states that only the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine portfolio has been fully evaluated and such emergency use listing granted. I would also like to share with you that we are in the process of reviewing 2 other dossiers, and we believe that emergency use listing will be granted for those candidate vaccines, possibly before the end of this month. So by the end of this month, hopefully we will have 3 potential vaccines with emergency use listing that has been granted by WHO. And we are also looking at another 4th portfolio, which we just received last week, as I mentioned already.
Thank you, Doctor. And yes, here also in the Philippines, just yesterday, Pfizer was granted an EUA by the FDA. They also have 2 others who have applied and are pending either approval or disapproval. So as we move forward, I think we'll have more handholds or footholds in terms of completing or expanding the pool of vaccines that may possibly be used here in the Philippines, observing those minimum criteria or standards set by the WHO. So again, thank you, Doctor. Sec Galvez, again, kung maaring matanong, tama po ba na yung DOST ang nag-chair ng task group on vaccine evaluation and selection at na may vaccine expert panel convened para sa purpose na ito?
Yes, ma'am. Meron po tayong member na 9 members ng vaccine expert panel under the DOST. And then yun po ay yung mga ibang member po nun ay member din po ng EDSTA.
Tapos sa Sec Galvez, sino-sino po itong siyam na miyembro? Tapos kahit in broad strokes, ano-ano po yung mga qualifications nila, yung paraan na sila'y pinili, at nagkaroon po ba sila, Sec Galvez, ng disclosure of potential conflict of interest?
Can we have Sir Jimmy to answer?
Yes, please.
Mike.
Sorry. Your Honors, I'd just like to inform you that we they actually underwent a strict selection process with removal of possibility of conflict of interest,
Mhm.
and they indeed signed a non-disclosure agreement,
Mhm.
and they have been selected based on their qualifications, and we made sure that their expertise is actually diverse. So we have members in the group that are clinical epidemiologists, infectious disease specialists, both pediatric and adult. Then we have a biostatistics expert, and then we have an industry expert as well, and an immunologist. So the expertise is actually broad and varied that covers all of the aspects of vaccine evaluation. If it is all right, we will provide you the names of the members of the panel and their expertise and their educational background for your reference. But I would request that we do not disclose publicly their identity because we would like to avoid influence from outside. And that is the reason why we do not actually disclose their identity, but we will provide you the members of the panel as you requested. Thank you,
Thank
Your
you.
Honors.
Thank you, Dr. Jaime, and it's nice to see you po again. And of course, um, I will comply or abide by your request about the non-disclosure of their identities. Pero kung maaari lang, kailangan ko lang i-follow up, at least again in broad stroke, paano po yung siyam pinili? As importantly or more importantly, nagkaroon po ba sila ng pagkakataon mag-disclose kung mayroong potential conflict of interest? At lahat ba sila ay nakapagsabi na wala naman silang potential conflict of interest? Kaugnay din po ng sinabi niyo, Dr. Jimmy, about avoiding an influence from outside entities.
Yes, Madam Senator, we actually ensure that they do not have a possible conflict of interest through their official declaration. They sign the documents and will provide you information as to the process and their qualifications and competencies the soonest. Thank you.
Maraming salamat din, Dr. Jimmy. Bago yung susunod na tanong ko, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, itanong ko lang po kasi kanina po may mga tinatanong po tayo, mga miyembro ng Senado, particular tungkol sa Sinovac, which I'm getting to in my next question. Pero napansin ko lang po kanina may mga nagsalita na kinatawa ng Zuwelig, ng ano pa bang, may mga tatlo pong pharma company resource persons na nagsalita. Pero nasan po yung Sinovac representative? I mean, sila yung kumpanya na pinakamarami tayong tanong dito sa Senado. Para sila po yung pwedeng sumagot para sa sarili nila.
None.
Mr.
We have no communications with them.
I see, Mr. President. Mas maganda, that's regrettable, mas maganda po sana kung nandito po sila to speak for themselves para hindi kailangan yung NTF or yung DOH ang sumagot ng mga tanong natin tungkol sa Sinovac. In any case po, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, yung DOST Vaccine Expert Panel nga po ay nag-produce ng vaccine ranking and justification matrix. Sec Galvez, totoo po ba na yung Sinovac at Sinopharm ang ranked na top 2 sa 7 vaccine na kinoconsider? Pwede po bang hilingin kay Sec Galvez i-present sa atin yung ranking at saka justification sa bawat 7 vaccine na iyon?
After you respond, General Galvez, please, Senator Ontiveros, wrap up. Your 10 minutes is up.
All right, Mr.
Who
President.
will answer for you?
May we request Dr. Jimmy Montoya to answer?
Dr. Montoya will respond. Go ahead.
Your Honors, Madam Senator, the ranking that you quoted, it's true that they made rankings based on a number of criteria. If I can be allowed to enumerate them, just for you to be aware of the diversity of the criteria that were actually used by the vaccine
Yes,
expert
please.
panel. They looked
Sige.
at the track record of the company, technology platform as to reliability and stability related to storage, etc. Safety based on phase 1 and phase 2. And if phase 3 is available, then that's even better. immunogenicity as to potential efficacy based on, again, phase 1 and phase 2, potential efficacy and safety based on published data, and vaccine implementation. And this includes logistics, which is actually more of within the domain of the Health Technology Assessment Council. So they came up with a matrix and ranking, and because the initial decision was to do ranking across and also within platforms, because the decision was actually to use a variety of technology platforms. So we are not going to just rely on one technology platform. For example, Sinovac and Sinopharm and Bharat actually belong to the inactivated virus. And then the mRNA, of course, Moderna and Pfizer, etc. So the latest ranking, in a way, I can provide you as of December 16, because more data become available, the ranks actually change. As of December 16, across the technologies or vaccines available, the Sinovac vaccine actually was ranked number 4. The number 1 is actually Pfizer, number 2 is Astra, and number 3 is Novavax. But within the vaccine platform or technology, if you're going to rank them within the technology, for Sinovac, it ranks number 1 within the category of inactivated viral vaccines, together with Bharat from India.
Yeah.
We will provide you a copy of this ranking, Madam Senator. Thank you.
Salamat, Dr. Jimmy. Sa overall ranking across different categories of vaccine, sabi nyo number 4 ang Sinovac at yung Sinopharm po ay number ano? At saka sinasabi niyo po ba, Dr. Jimmy, na meron ng sufficient information on Sinovac and Sinopharm para makapag-come up ng ganong decision matrix? Akala ko po kasi ay kulang pa yung information or yung data, lalo na ng Sinovac.
Yeah. Madam Senator, if I may, this is only based on the available data, which is only phase 1 and phase 2. That is the latest data that is available. We are awaiting, hopefully, the data coming from Argentina, which gave an EUA emergency use authorization to Sinovac, but the documents are still pending. So this does not include that if that is available. It is only for phase 1 and phase 2.
Although at the same time, di ba, Dr. Jimmy, hindi naman strict regulatory agency ang sa Argentina, ano po? Dahil ano lang yung US, EU, Japan, at saka isa pa.
All right. Thank you. Please.
Salamat, Dr. Jimmy. And by way of wrapping up, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, dahil actually less than 1/3 pa ako sa mga tanong, may I just put on record my other questions. With news reports alleging inconsistencies in terms of efficacy and no transparency of data respectively, ito pong Sinovac and Sinopharm respectively, does the DOST vaccine expert panel maintain its justification of the two? Tapos itatanong ko rin po sana alin sa dalawa, sa Sinovac at sa Pfizer na halos kasabay daw na darating sa susunod na buwan, alin sa dalawa ang gagamitin sa ating mga health workers at frontliners? Next, just to make of record, yung tanong na kung may update mula sa Secretary of Health dun sa sinabi ng FDA ni DG Domingo na ang DOH ang magmamonitor sa PSG for any possible adverse effects after that immunization within the PSG. Na-establish din po ba ng SOH kung aling brand ang ginamit ng PSG dahil may ilang ulat na ang ginamit daw ay yung Sinopharm. Next po, itatanong ko sana kung na-establish ni DG Domingo o ng VEP Secretariat yung identity at intent ng email sender. Nag-email po siya on behalf of Sinopharm nagngangalang Juan Miguel Arroyo of LTA Incorporated. So namesake no ng isang former first gentleman natin. Kasunod po, tanong sana tungkol sa master lists na tinanong din kanina. How will DOH generate the master list para sa rollout ng vaccination? What are the mechanisms in place para siguruhin walang exclusion or inclusion errors? May ongoing na po ba na national registration program? May update ba sa kasalukuyang registration at recruitment para sa WHO Solidarity Vaccine Study? Hindi po ba nahihirapang mag-enlist ang mga participants? Kasunod po sana yung tungkol sa facility-based vaccination na preference ng DOH. Hindi lang tanong pero suggestion po sana, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, hindi kaya kinoconsider ng DOH na mag-house to house vaccination. At kung hindi man house to house, paano po binabalak ng DOH immobilize yung mga individual na pumunta sa mga immunization sites? Kasunod po, may assessment ba ang DOH kung ano ang mga dahilan dito sa vaccine hesitancy, kakulangan ng vaccine confidence na tinalakay ng marami sa atin, and what programs are in place para i-address ito? Sino po ang in charge? Second to the last, ano po yung mga mechanism? Yes, Mr. President.
Senator De Veros,
Yes, Mr. President.
we've been here since 10 a.m. You just
Yes, I do,
write
Mr.
down the other questions that you were not able to ask. Some of the
Yes.
questions you were asking earlier were also asked. We will ask the Secretary to Secretary Duque and Secretary Galvez to respond through writing to the Office of Senator De Veros on these questions
Thank you,
that
Mr. President.
she mentioned.
We will
All right.
probably do,
Mr.
Mr. Chairman,
President.
Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Duque.
Thank you, Senator De Veros.
Thank you, Mr. President, for anticipating my request to the Chair. Salamat po, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Bongo is recognized. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The previous year has been rough for the country and the rest of the world due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But despite the struggles we faced last year and continue to face today, our COVID-19 experience is not entirely without lessons. Not only did the pandemic remind us what truly matters, it also united us as a nation and brought us closer together. But let me emphasize, this war is yet to be won. Hindi pa po tapos ang laban. We have to build on our early successes to ensure that we finally win this war against this virus. At nag-iisa lang po ang ating sandata upang tuluyan na nating matalo ang COVID-19. Yan ay ang COVID-19 vaccine. Napakahalaga po ng papel ng bakuna sa ating recovery mula sa kasalukuyang pandemya. Ito po ang magiging susi upang makabalik ang pamumuhay natin sa normal. Kaya naman napakalaking bagay ng vaccine roadmap at tamang implementasyon nito. Gayunpaman, sa tingin ko po ay nagkukulang tayo ngayon sa information dissemination campaigns or awareness information plan, hindi lamang para masiguro ang tuloy-tuloy na kooperasyon ng mga Pilipino, kundi na rin po pati mapanatag natin sila na hindi natutulog ang ating gobyerno upang mabigyan sila ng ligtas at epektibong bakuna laban sa COVID-19. Sabi ninyo sa nakarang hearing, darating na ang unang batch ng bakuna sa susunod na buwan. Importante po na maintindihan ang ating vaccination plan, lalo na po ang priority population. Ilatag natin sa kanila ngayon pa lang ang buong proseso, hindi lang naman ito usapin ng pagkakaroon po ng bakuna. Kailangang paghandaan din po ang storage, logistics, transportations ng mga bakunang ito. Dapat ngayon pa lang ay nakikipag-usap na tayo sa logistics companies para dito. As soon as magkaroon tayo ng safe, sure, and secure vaccines, mahalaga na makakaabot ang mga bakuna sa mga dapat makatanggap. Yun sa pinakadulo po ng ating bansa. Tayo yung mga mayayaman naman po, kaya nilang bumili kahit magkano. Pero sa kakaikot ko po sa buong bansa, marami pa pong hindi nakakaintindi at hindi pa nila alam saan kukuha, hindi nila alam saan bibili, kung libre ba ito at paano ito makakarating sa kanilang mga lugar. May mga taong hindi alam saan pupunta, hindi alam kung ano ibig sabihin ng vaccine. Huwag nating pabayaan ang mga mahirap. Yung mga walang pambili, mga no read, no write, sila po ang kailangan ng lumabas at magtrabaho upang buhayin ang mga pamilya nila. Ito po yung mga isang kahig at isang tuka. No Filipino should be left behind in our road towards recovery. Pantay-pantay po dapat ang access at hindi lamang ang may kaya sa buhay ang dapat makakuha ng vaccine na ito. I understand that itong mga LGUs will identify individuals in the priority population and the national government will do the validation of this list. The NTF has to ensure we would not encounter similar issues regarding master list po when we implemented the first tranche of the social amelioration program last year. Bukod sa COVID-19, nakakamatay din ang maling balita. Kung gusto talaga nating magkaroon ng kumpiyansa ang tao sa bakuna, kailangan nilang maintindihan kung ano ito at ano ang plano ng gobyerno ukol dito. Linawin natin ang mga issue tungkol sa mga binibiling bakuna ng gobyerno. Malaki po ang tiwala ko na ginagawa po ng gobyerno ang lahat para magkaroon ng ligtas, epektibo at aprobadong vaccine para sa mga Pilipino. I understand that the NTF has already formed task groups to handle the vaccination program. Malaki po ang tiwala ko kay Secretary Galvez, our vaccine czar. He said that the government is targeting to secure at least 148 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines for the country in 2021. The supply of 148 million, if fully secured, could cover some 70 million Filipinos, assuming 2 doses are needed per person. The 148 million figure was based on current negotiations with several vaccine companies that the government is in advanced talks with, including Novavax, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Sinovac, and Gamaleya. Meron tayong 72.2 billion sa 2021 budget. 70 billion dito ay unprogram or standby at additional 10 billion mula po sa Bayanihan 2 para sa mga vaccine at logistics. Balita ko po ay nauunahan tayo ng ibang bansa, lalo na yung mga mayayamang bansa, kasi kaya nilang mag-down payment. Ang iba po ay they purchase ng more than their population. Tayo naman po, after a month pa bago dumating ang bakuna, dahil ba kulang ang supply o naunang mag-down payment po ang ibang mayayamang bansa, kaya sila nauna. We had a provision in Bayanihan 2 para sa exemption po ng procurement ng COVID-19 goods and medication from the bidding process required under the Government Procurement Reform Act. Pero nag-expire na po ito last December 19. Kung may limitation po ba ang ating mga batas, nandito po kami sa Senado. Kung kailangan may pasang batas, willing po kaming tumulong. Malaki rin po ang pasasalamat ko sa private sector at sa mga inisyatibong ito hinggil sa pag-secure ng vaccines para sa bansa. Kahapon po ay nagkaroon ng ceremonial signing para sa second batch ng private sector donation of AstraZeneca vaccine to the government. Your efforts are most welcome. I thank the private sector because despite the government's own tireless efforts, government cannot do this alone, sa totoo lang po. We need a whole of a nation approach to uplift the lives of all Filipinos amid these challenges. I also thank our LGUs that showed the initiative in working with the national government in ensuring the welfare of their constituents. Lahat po ay naglalaan na po ng pondo. You always have my full and unwavering support. Marami po tayong mga oportunidad upang magtulungan. I urge Secretary Galvez to formulate a process which will expedite the vaccine procurement of LGUs and the private sector. At balita ko po, Secretary Galvez, willing po kayong mag-vaccinate 24 hours. Problema po natin ang supply. Bilisan po natin ito. Alam ko po, lahat tayo ay pagod na po sa sitwasyong ito na dulot ng pandemya. Alam po ito ng gobyerno, kaya naman po hindi tayo tumitigil para matuldukan ang mga banta ng COVID-19 at maibalik na natin sa normal unti-unti ang ating mga pamumuhay. But if we do not adhere to health measures to protect each other, if we continue to nitpick and create controversy when there is none, if we do not communicate with our Filipinos our plan, this pandemic will never end. Kung walang katapusan po ang pagdududa, as legislators at sa publiko, kami naman bilang mga mambabatas, why don't we legislate a law not only on adverse event but also against those who are taking advantage of the situation, especially now that we are in a pandemic. Ikulong po natin o isama natin sa death penalty at least mauna na po silang injection by lethal injection. This is a very delicate subject matter in fairness to all those working hard, such as Secretary Galvez and Secretary Duque, who are working 24/7, and the government po, nagtatrabaho naman po ang ating gobyerno. Bukod po sa COVID-19, mukhang nakakabahala po ang lantarang pagkawala ng tiwala sa solusyon, which is to provide sufficient, safe, and effective vaccines. And let me emphasize, we are all part of the solution to this public health issue. Therefore, we must share the responsibility if we want to recover from this pandemic. Wala pong pinipili ang pandemyang ito. Kakaikot ko po, dapat kunin po natin, napapansin ko po sa publiko, dapat kunin natin ang kumpiyansa ng taong bayan. Lahat tayo apektado dito, lalaki man o babae, bata man matanda, mayaman man o mahirap, anumang rehiyon, anuman ang inyong politika, saan ka man sa Pilipinas, talagang tinamaan po tayo rito sa pandemyang ito. Let us work together and do our part. History has proven time and again that in this time of crisis, a nation that is united has a higher chance of survival. Papansin ko rin po when I ask people around the country, gusto po nilang magpa-vaccine. Pero po ang tanong kung sino pong mauna, ayaw po nilang silang nagtuturuan po kung sinong mauna. So ibig sabihin, kunin muna natin ang kumpiyansa. That's why I'm urging Secretary Galvez and Secretary Duque na pag nandiyan na po yung vaccine, paturok na kagad kayo. Not because of kayo po yung priority, but ipakita nyo po sa publiko na dapat po ang pagkatiwalaan yung vaccine na inyong pinili. Show it to the public po to gain the confidence of the people. Maraming salamat po. Wala na po akong tanong kasi nakakatanong naman ako sa inyo parati at maraming salamat, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Senator Go. Mukhang tinayman mo yung sarili mo. Nasa 10 minutes, eksakto.
Salamat po. Sunod lang po ako, Mr. President.
Just to add a little levity, dahil kanina pa kami umaga rito, Senator Villanueva he was asking me if he could interpellate you. I said no.
No.
You almost asked for the floor.
We have a question to Senator Bongo, who is
No,
the white
Go ahead.
figurine.
No.
The white figurine.
In your back, you have the
Behind you.
the figurine of the president. Hindi ba?
Opo, yes, Mr. President.
Sino yung katabi?
Yung naka-white, sino daw yung naka-white, boss?
Si ano yan? Yung si Kuya Bongo. Kuya ko po.
Thank you, Senator Go. All right, thank you, Senator
Salamat,
Villanueva.
Mr. President.
Gentlemen, yes, thank you. We'd like to thank our resource persons, our colleagues, of course. But then again, the resource persons, from the executive department, from the local government officials who joined us, the private sector, most especially from the medical community, and then the pharma companies. Thank you for joining us
Mr. President,
this day.
before we do that, let me just put on record, we almost had a 9-hour non-stop hearing, and we commend our Senate President for being here the whole time, presiding the whole time, and we are just inspired by your leadership and your passion to really do something for our country and people. Thank you very much, Mr. President, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, kind sir.
Amen,
Thank you.
Mr. President. This is Senator
After-
Gordon.
Thank you,
Kudos to
Senator Gordon.
your hard work and devotion to get this problem resolved. Congratulations, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Mr. President,
After
Mr. President, Mr. President,
Senator,
Mr. President.
Mayor Bing, Leonardia,
Yes,
is that?
Mr. President, just a very, very short manifestation because as you can see on this in the screen, all the three LGU representatives are still here. We started at 10 o'clock. It's now getting to be a 9 hour experience. And we just want you to know that we have shown our dedication to this and the
Yes,
seriousness of the matter. We are so conscious. There at the height of the COVID crisis in Bacolod City, after an 8-hour meeting, we were telling people that was a record, but now that record has been beaten with 8 hours and 45 minutes. Congratulations,
All right.
Mr. President, and
Thank you.
we will be with you. We will be with you. Thank you.
Mayor. Thank you very much. We are aware of your concerns also and your presence. Thank you so much. So after two exhaustive public committee hearings, the committee of the whole, your committee of the whole, believes that we were able to gather enough data information to come up with sound and relevant recommendations that will give answers to some of the concerns, if not all of the concerns of the public, particularly on the timeline of distribution, efficacy, and safety of COVID-19 vaccines, transparency relative to the procurement process and the specific brands of vaccines to be procured by the government, among others. We hope that the committee, through these proceedings, were able to address some of the public doubts and hesitations that would ultimately help in bringing back confidence on the national vaccination system. So again, thank you very much. On behalf of the other members of the Senate, of the Committee of the Whole, this committee hearing is hereby adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.